Welcome back, everyone. This is Dirch, and I am with Hoyle here to do the Wilhelm Skill and Gear Guide. If you guys don't know Hoyle, he is a staple over at the forums, and if I'm not mistaken, Hoyle, aren't you kind of in the camp of people that prefer the pre-sequel to Borderlands 2?
Yeah. It's not like I prefer pre-sequel to the Borderlands 2. It's just more so what I've played the most. I kind of fell off in the middle of Borderlands 2, so anything that I jumped in afterwards, I maxed out a character at the very end. But pre-sequel is one of the games that I was fully indoctrinated into playing while it was released. I was alive for the full life cycle, and basically I was born and raised in the TPS, so more or less I've played way more TPS and I kind of know a lot more, and that's kind of how I kind of look at it. I love BL2. It's just I wasn't there for most of it, so I didn't get to.
That's fair enough. Since this video is long too, is there any links out there you want to give people or places to find you in case they don't make it to the very end?
I mean, as far as me as a Borderlands contributor goes, I don't have a YouTube or anything. It's just check out the forums. We make a lot of cool stuff. If you want to argue about me on Top Gear stuff, I edit 3 of them for the pre-sequel, so and I'm always there to kind of lend my 2 cents on any questions, so just check out the forums. They might not be that popular, but there's a lot of cool people on them.
Oh yeah, it's by far to me the best place to go for Borderlands stuff.
For sure.
Alright, so with that out of the way, let's start. So, obviously starting with just the action skill, Wolf and Saint. I'll quick read through it here. You press your action skill to summon Wolf and Saint. Your trusty combat drones, Wolf will roam and attack enemies, while Saint will stay close to you and replenish your health. Saint has a protective shield, but Wolf can be damaged by enemies. Press and hold your action skill again to recall Wolf and Saint and have some of your cooldown refunded. It lasts for 42 seconds. The cooldown is 42 seconds. The duration is 35. Saint restores 2.5% of your max health each second while active.
So Wolf and Saint basically alone. Just looking at the skill, it probably looks like one of the weaker skills. It's obviously a pet skill in first philosophy, but if you think of it, it's on the power level of other skills. It's basically passive damage and passive health regen on the surface, and although that's not really attractive, it's not sexy, it's not aimbot, it's not invulnerability from everything for a few seconds, but I think it doesn't look that great right now, but when you take a look at all the other stuff you can kind of do with it, it gets a lot more sexy when you play with it. But definitely it lends to its playstyle, and it definitely gets more improved when you go down the trees, depending on how you look at it. There's also two kind of
go ahead. You first.
There's also kind of two main philosophies with it. There's a couple skills down later down the line where you kind of can branch 2 ways. You can either use them as you activate them and you cancel them. There's a few abilities that work when you cancel them, and then there's kind of that whole idea where you want to keep them out as long as possible, constantly keep that passive health regen up, and constantly kind of do a lot of damage. And the damage will get better as you go along, depending on how you skill it. So.
Yeah, what I liked about it from the get-go was in Borderlands, this is our turret class, basically. And in Borderlands 1, you had Roland's turret that was immobile, could only face and shoot one direction. It was really limited in that way. And then Accident's turrets were better because they could go in all direction. You could throw out 2 of them with a certain skill. You could recall them as well, but you had to go to it and recall them. Wolf and Saint, they move with you, which is a huge improvement for the turret, I think. The fact that one heals you and one attacks, I think, is great. And you can recall them just by holding your action skill. You don't have to go up to them and recall them, which I think is a massive improvement. Gage suffered from that, to not be able to recall Death Trap and stuff. So I think it's just a nice progression of them learning how to do things better. And I love the idea of surveyors being out there. It's brilliant.
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like all the best things of Roland's original turret. Like, you throw it for that heal station, or you throw it for the just passive damage, and you obviously have both of them. And obviously, another good thing you want to tack on the fact that Wolf is constantly flying around. You're not going to have enemies shoot it down very often, because if everyone knows, surveyors are pretty freaking hard to hit.
Yep, and enemies do not have the greatest aim either, so yeah, he's got a lot of survival because of that, where the turrets were so easy to kill because there's stationary objects, melee people can just go up to and bash it to death. Is there a certain tree you want to start with?
Might as well start with the Hunter Killer.
All right.
It's the first one.
Yep, left to right. Often do it that way. So Afterburner increases Wolf's airspeed. Additionally, your reload speed and bullet velocity are increased. This seems like a pretty good tier 1 to me. I don't know if Wolf really needs that airspeed, but reload speed is good, and bullet velocity, for the most part, is a really solid skill to have.
Yeah, it's basically like a loaded skill, but it's loaded in stats that aren't necessarily sexy and not necessarily like obvious to look at when you're first considering kind of like min-maxing and DPS and stuff like that. Reload speed is kind of like that hidden DPS skill that nobody really considers as a DPS skill until you are constantly firing a gun and you need to constantly be reloading. The Wolf speed is basically unnecessary. Wolf barely gets hit, like, ever. As far as like them trying to avoid taking damage with Wolf, but I guess he gets around to areas much better. But and the bullet speed is situationally useful. I personally love this skill because I like using like basic torque weaponry, like the gyro-jets with like the torque rifle and stuff like that. And obviously stuff like the Ravager benefits greatly from bullet speed. Of course, you have stuff like the Blacker that negatively, and the Hail, I guess, that negatively are affected by the Afterburner.
But 25% bullet speed isn't like that velocity 100% that's going to absolutely wreck them either.
But the thing you need to look at is Afterburner is boosted like by all of his comms, basically. Especially all of his good ones, like the Celestial and
that's pretty awesome, because, I mean, you get that up to 10 points. 50% reload speed at tier 1 is a massive boost.
Yeah, it's basically a really, really loaded tier 1 skill, and you'd be hard-pressed to find anybody who skips all of these points.
Yeah, and then one other thing I want to just mention about reload speed is a lot of people don't realize for multi-pellet guns, it's actually an accuracy increase as well, because the bullets spread out the further they travel, and if they travel faster, they stay tighter for a longer time, because that spread happens not over distance, but over time. Therefore, bullet speed is a hidden accuracy buff for guns with a spread.
Yeah,
which makes it even a little bit cooler. Yeah, shotguns,
I think
splitters.
Your miniguns and your Gatlings do that too.
Yep, helps them as well. Next is fire support. Increases damage dealt with all gun types and increases the damage dealt by Wolf. 15% and 25. 15% for you and 25 for Wolf.
It's a fairly boring skill. Obviously, it's just weapon damage and Wolf gun damage. The one thing you want to stress on is, spoiler alert, Wilhelm doesn't have too much damage, like flat-out damage buffs, throughout the rest of his tree. This is one of the few places where he does pick up damage.
In tier 1, you can't expect much more than 15%.
Yeah, exactly. And considering the rest of the damage from his tree is kind of like these passive things like reload speed or fire rate or stuff like that, you don't get a lot of flat gun damage boosts, so there's a point where it's like, you have 70 points, you usually pick this up just to advance it down the tree, and a couple of his lower tree skills in this particular tree are a little less than satisfactory or more playstyle specific, so you usually end up picking this up when you're going down this tree, just because it is just gun damage, and of course it is boosted by a lot of his class mods as well. More particularly like the Celestial.
Yeah, like Accelerate for Maya was tier 1 at 15%. Of course, Jack's got a tier 1 that, but yeah, we're not going to go into how crazy Jack's skills are.
Yeah.
Next is Venom Bolts, Wolf ability. Wolf shots have a chance to be Venom Bolts, which deal corrosive damage. Additionally, you gain increased corrode chance and corrode damage with guns and grenades. This skill suffers from being in the pre-sequel.
I think being garbage in general.
This could be good in Borderlands 2. There's a lot of loaders and armored psychos in Borderlands 2.
Okay, fine. I'll concede the point that it's way worse in the pre-sequel than it is. It's corrosive, just in general. It's just a lackluster element outside of the Fantastic Voyage. Basically, you have rarely any armored enemies. The only ones bringing any considerable notion is the boss RK5, the round comp jet, whatever. And I don't remember too much outside of that. And outside of that, the skills it actually gives you is it gives you what, like an extra. Haven't actually maxed this out. 4%.
10%. Yeah, it's a 10% chance at 5 out of 5 and 20% corrode damage. Oh, that's only corrode damage. That's dots, not. Yeah, okay,
it's just a dot. It's not. It's garbage.
It's pure hot garbage, even Borderlands 2. Moving on.
It's corrode damage. Yeah, it's just garbage.
Yeah, it's just the dots. So yeah, never take this skill. And isn't the bolt chance, wouldn't that actually lower their DPS? Because corrosive on flesh and shields does less. So if a shot's corrosive instead.
Tested it, but I think it's like a bonus chance to double fire. Like I don't think it's...
okay. I thought it replaced the shot. I'm like, that would actually be worse.
But yeah, I haven't taken it for sure, but I haven't, because I looked at it and read the skills and know what those numbers mean. So I kind of never really take it, but I think it's a double shot when you shoot it. Regardless, I wouldn't take it unless you're specifically running a pet build and specifically doing like a subconscious run or something like that.
Yeah.
Where you're just killing claplex and stuff like that.
Next is Suppression, kill skill. Killing an enemy grants you and Wolf increased fire rate for a short time. 30% for you and 75% for Wolf. This seems pretty good.
Yep, it's fairly basic, as I said. It's basically suppression. It's same idea where you get some passive DPS on a kill skill. And it's kind of like a really boring skill, but all these kind of Wolf DPS increases add up, especially when you get to some
75% is pretty huge. And the 30% for you is nice. If it can be boosted, 60% is crazy. But yeah, to get Wolf increasing. And I think Axton would have loved a skill like this to also increase his turret fire rate.
Mm-hmm. And what also kind of like helps us out is there is a bunch more like wolf specific damage increases that kind of come down a little bit later, and this kind of compounds with that too. If you do want to run like a specific wolf pet build, there are a lot more options for you, and this skill definitely helps out go with it.
Laser guided. Well, when you activate Wolf and Saint or press action skill or left button, while they're active, Saint will paint the target under your rectile. Wolf will focus attacks on the currently painted target, and the target will suffer increased damage from all sources. If the target is killed while painted, time will be added to Wolf and Saint's duration. Target damage receive 25% more damage and 5 seconds to the duration.
So what does this skill sound like to you, Dirch?
Kunai.
Yeah, it's Wilhelm's death mark, and it's a game changer within like a 10-point investment of his first tree. You get this skill on Wilhelm. It's really freaking good. Yeah. It's a core ability to literally all of his gameplay, because Wilhelm's core gameplay is heavily mobbing oriented, where you want to be constantly jumping from target to target. Like you kill a target, pop a kill skill, aim the laser at the next target. You keep going, kind of shading on to enemies, and you basically get your Wolf and Saint duration up to the entire map. Basically, you can get through an entire map just painting targets and constantly keeping the duration up, and you always get that damage boost.
And in co-op, if other people kill it, you still get the duration, right?
If the target is killed while painting, yeah, all you have to do is paint it. Wilhelm just paints the target, and he gets benefit. All your teammates get benefit, and it's a multiplicative damage boost as well.
Yeah.
I don't remember exactly where the notes say, but in UVHM, the skill actually got buffed to do it. It was Wilhelm's ninja buff that wasn't actually mentioned in the. I think this is in Blitz skill thing. It was ninja buff to where I think the whole boost got a 1.5 multiplier increase. So I think it gives more damage than the card actually says, as far as I remember.
That's not a bad thing.
But everyone was taking this skill anyways. It's not like it like suddenly got buffed. It's an amazing skill. It's like it's Wilhelm's like one of Wilhelm's best skills in the entire tree. It's better than his capstone for this tree. It's amazing.
Yeah, they did a damn good job with the game changers in this game. So yeah, everyone take this because it's an end-all be-all damage boost to all your damage and all your teammates, kind of like Kunai. Less, not as high. Kunai got up to like 80% even after all the playing around with it, but the fact that it also increases your duration is pretty sweet. Rolling Thunder. While Wolf is alive, you will periodically gain stacks of Rolling Thunder, increasing Wolf's damage. Wolf gets 10% more damage per stack, and stacks last for 5 seconds. Is there a stack limit on this?
I'm pretty sure there isn't. It's basically as long as you can keep your Wolf Insane duration up. The thing with Rolling Thunder is basically you're opt-in, opt-out. If you want to be a pet build, you take Rolling Thunder. If you don't want to be a pet build, you might not want to take Rolling Thunder. It heavily relies on keeping your Wolf Insane duration as high as long as possible, which is why it pairs so well with Laser Guided. In most maps, you can usually get like 30, 35, 40, kind of that rough range of just kind of mobbing maps. You'll get that 30, 40 stacks, because as long as you can keep your duration up, which you can really easily with Laser Guided and constant painting, as long as you're hopping from enemy to enemy, you can keep them up for a very, very long time, and you'll start to notice that Wolf damage
really skyrocket. It said at 10 stacks, 50% is a big damage deal.
So and think about it with 30 or 40 stacks. It's actually ridiculous. And on top of that, this skill can get boosted by one of his best comms and just another comm too. It can even get boosted to like 11/5 with I think the fighter bomber comm or something like that. And it's just it can get insane. I don't think it's necessary for a lot of mobbing conditions, but if you do want to run the pet build or like the turret build, this with like a chronicler, which is already like a good comm because of the multiplicative elemental damage it does, and it already boosts like +4. It's insane.
Does this skill suffer on bosses a little bit because it's harder to get stacks going?
I was gonna touch on that. Just Wilhelm in general, he's a very combat flow kind of character, and he wants to be constantly jumping from enemy to enemy, and that obviously is kind of like not a very great playstyle when you're up against like Eclipse or Eos or something like that, where the ads are released in bursts and not very frequent bursts, and you kind of have to just kind of Wilhelm. Yeah, exactly. Like a lot of this is basically why Wilhelm doesn't have any minute-long speedruns of Eos and Eclipse and stuff, because a lot of his stuff is prolonged over time and keeping the Wolf Insane up as long as possible. And when he can't do that, you don't get benefits from Rolling Thunder. You don't get benefits from the paint for as long as you can, and it kind of it's definitely more of a mobbing skill, and Wilhelm in general is more of kind of like a mobbing character because he gets a lot from kill skills and he gets a lot from constantly painting and jumping from enemy to enemy, and you kind of don't have too much of that gameplay from a lot of bosses unless they have constant ads.
All right. Kill switch Wolf ability. Whenever Wolf is recalled or all right, let me start over. Whenever Wolf is recalled, is destroyed, or expires, He dive bombs at enemies with an explosive effect. So I take it this is part of the recall setups.
Yep. It's not very much damage, and the blast radius isn't too amazing. But if you are going to be running a constantly canceling Wolf and Saint build, it's passive damage, and it's just passive damage that it rarely comes into range where it will actually like kill you or something like that. It's just like a free explosion. It doesn't do much damage, but it does non-zero damage, and that's kind of the kind of skills you like when you're kind of.
And it's a one-pointer. The animation looks good too. I just did it a few times on screen.
Yep.
Another thing I just want to quick bring up about Wolf and Saint 2, they go through terrain, which is a big deal.
Mm-hmm. Let's see.
Next we have Scramble. When Wolf is destroyed, it is replaced once for free, and time will be added to Wolf and Saint's duration. So deployment time added 50%. Wolf doesn't get destroyed too often, does he? So this is kind of...
If anything, you take it as a single pointer. It's not something you would ever max. But when you take that very first point in Scramble, I think it adds 30% duration when on the very first point, I think.
20.
Yes.
Okay, 30.
If you are going to take it, you take it at 1 point to kind of like as an insurance policy if you're running like a Rolling Thunder build. But I wouldn't recommend basically taking anything more than that because it's 5% after the first point.
And sometimes those 1 point wonder skills are good. You know, Aurelia's got a few of those where it puts out her little cryo thing when she gets hit. And
Wilhelm is made of 1 point wonders. You'll get to know that when I go skills for sure.
Cold War is next then. When you electrocute, ignite, or corrode an enemy, there is a chance for the target to freeze as well. Additionally, you gain increased freeze chance when using cryo weapons. So the freeze chance is 25%, and the cryo weapon freeze chance is 10%.
I don't like the skill. Okay, if you want to just look at the numbers, 5 out of 5 points, you get a bonus 25% chance when you deal a different dot, right?
Yeah.
So, like, let's say your normal gun is like 10 or 15%, like corrode chance. So you're effectively getting what, like a 3% added bonus to freeze when you using normal guns. And then, like, let's say even on like a Malawan gun where it's like 30%, what is that, like 7.5, something like that? It's
pretty
a really
low.
small number.
Yeah.
Like, obviously it's like passive DPS or something like that when you're using like a normal gun because you can have a chance to freeze. But at 5 out of 5, that's like, it's gross. It's like, if anything, you get it as a 1 point for that, like, kind of like you run like the same reason you run like 1% crit on something like that doesn't normally crit in like a MOBA or something, just for that chance to like randomly get a spike of damage. But it's not something you want to invest in, and I think this is like the biggest trap skill in his entire tree. I hate it. I hate it so much.
At a glance, it sounds good, but yeah, when you actually break down the numbers, it's not that great.
Yeah. I hate the skill. If you have success with it, feel free to rage at me, or if you have success with it and if anything, okay, I'll break it down at the very least. If you are going to use Cold War, use it with shock tasers or shock, like, what's the wide AoE shock grenade in this game?
Stormfront.
Stormfront.
Yeah.
You want to use that because the shock,
you just
only
hit
get
so
one
many
chance
dots
to,
on it.
Yeah, exactly. And you only have one chance to proc Cold War when the dot happens, and if you're going to do it with any dot, it's going to be shock because the dot only lasts for like 2-3 seconds. And like, if you're gonna be using Cold War, you use it with a shock weapon, or throw shock tasers or Stormfronts to get kind of your most success with it. I don't like it. If you're gonna take it, take 1 point just for the chance.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not something you want to take a calm for. It's not something you really want to do anything for. I hate the skill. I think it's garbage, and it shouldn't be here. And gross.
All right, so we're gonna move on to a hopefully better skill.
Oh yeah, it's way better. Just read it.
Escalation increases your critical hit damage. Additionally, landing critical hits on enemies reduces the remaining cooldown of Wolf and Saint by a small amount. This effect has a cooldown.
Now, if I said type B, how much more excited do you get for this skill?
Way more excited.
Yes. If you combine this with a couple other skills, it gets way more exciting. But basically, type B is your multiplicative.
Wait, this is type B?
Yeah, this is type B.
Wow. Okay, that's the only skill I know of in the series that's a type B crit bonus.
Yep. So it may look really dumb right now as a 1.25, but it's a 1.25 multiplicative. So
yeah.
Let's say you have a Celestial boosting your targeting scope, which is plus 100% crit, and you have this, which is a type B. You get a lot more crit than you think.
Oh yeah, then that's 150% crit essentially.
Yeah, basically, and it's
and the fact that it also helps with the cooldown reduction as well.
Mm-hmm. It helps with basically all your builds. Even if you're constantly canceling, it lets you get them up so you can cancel them again sooner. It's just an amazing skill. It gives you type B crit, and it's just like really, really cool.
If you guys don't understand the type B crit, I will link my Dreadnaught, the critical hit guy, in the description below, and you can watch that, or you can go check out the critical hit guide by Chuck 80 in the forums. That also explains it. So 2 places to go find it if you'd rather watch or read.
Oh, okay. Just to double back onto laser guided, I found the map post on basically how they buffed laser guided and UVHM.
Okay.
That 25% boost I think got times by 1.5, so it's basically a 1.875 damage boost. When you're applying it in UVHM, so
that actually does put it at kunai range, because
yeah,
kunai is now 80% on a hit. So yeah, that's pretty damn good.
I just found the math post. It's not like you weren't taking it before and you're suddenly taking it. It's like a core Wilhelm skill regardless. It's just like there's number proof that like basically improved that show that.
Yeah, that's a massive.
It definitely got buffed where it was in UVHM where it was prior, and I don't think they put it in patch notes, but it's stronger than it once was.
Yeah. Then we go down to the final capstone here with Omega Strike. Wolf ability causes Wolf to periodically launch deadly missile strikes against enemies or against its targets. And it's not going to do it here because there's no targets. Is the damage on it that good?
I haven't checked if it gets boosted by Rolling Thunder, but it's not amazing. It's kind of like it's like a capstone. It's like you're going down for escalation anyways. You might as well take it.
Yeah.
Unless you're canceling them constantly. But it's not something you like go down this. If you're basically going down the tree for escalation and then you happen to also pick up Omega Strike, you don't really go down the tree for Omega Strike.
Okay.
If you're going to use a pet build or any build that basically has Wolf and Saint out.
No, it is explosive damage, right?
Yep.
So on a cryo build, you at least have that bonus.
Exactly. It's something you take if you happen to be down the tree. It's not something you really go down the tree for, unless you are specifically running like a pet build with Rolling Thunder.
This tree kind of, I guess to like summarize this tree, kind of confuses me, because you see like Hunter Killer, it kind of seems like a wolf tree, but at the same time, like Venom Bolts in Cold War, not only being bad skills, but they don't seem to fit in the theme at all. They don't
really fit anywhere.
Afterburner, Fire Sport, Suppression, Laser Guided, Kill Switch, Omega Strike, Escalation, Scramble. All that makes sense. Rolling Thunder, and you kind of always have a few throw-in ones, but these weird like elemental, not very good skills. So I guess the tree overall does have a good theme. It's just those 2 skills seem really out of place.
Yeah, the overall theme of the skill is you boost Wolf's damage basically, and just kind of Wolf being a badass. Like his core philosophy is left tree is your Wolf tree, your middle tree is your Wilhelm tree, and your right tree is your Saint tree.
Yep.
And it more or less does at least the Wolf tree justice, more or less, but it's kind of weird. that the fact that Cold War and Venom bolts are kind of there.
Yeah, and like, I mean, trees usually have a filler or two. You know, like Rek is in Maya's healing tree, accelerates in her crowd control tree, and characters have those like fillers, but those two just seem more out of place than normal.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna skip to Dreadnaught next, since we did the wolf tree. I think it makes sense to do the saint tree and finalize on his tree.
Cool.
So auxiliary tanks increases Wolf and Saint's duration and cooldown rate.
So
I mean, solid. The numbers aren't that huge though, but it is tier 1.
All of its comms though.
Yeah, and it is both. You don't often see skills that increase duration and cooldown.
Yeah, most comms basically have this. It's not that amazing, considering Wolf and Saint's base cooldowns are 42 seconds roughly.
Yeah.
But if
it is tier
duration,
1.
it is flat seconds.
Yep.
And not.
Yeah.
So those flat seconds will help out a lot more than it looks on the surface. But it's not like an amazing skill. It's something you take because most builds want either one or the other or both. The canceling build wants Wolf and Saint up as often as possible. So they can cancel it and get their overcharge boost and stuff like that. And the other builds just want to capitalize on having Wolf and Saint out as long as possible. If there's like a sudden drought of enemies, those extra seconds do add up. That lets you get through a couple more enemies, so you can paint one more target and maybe keep your Rolling Thunder stacks up for longer. It's not a very flashy skill, but it's definitely one you probably consider taking, considering how this tree kind of works. Especially just to get down to the tree, because most Wilhelm builds will get to the capstone of this tree, regardless of what they're actually building.
And also, just to note, most often cooldown skills for characters historically in Borderlands games has been like tiers 4 and 5. So just bringing it up tier 1, you expect that number to be a little bit lower. I mean, there's a price like tier 5 skills should be better than tier 1 skills.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like I said, the fact that it's duration and cooldown is kind of cool, because I don't know of any other skills that hit both of those. Fortify increases max health for both you and Wolf. Additionally, while Saint is active, you gain increased damage with all gun types.
So, yeah, that's 5 out of 5. That's 20% damage at 5 out of 5. Only while Wolf and Saint is out. I mean, while your action skill is up, Saint's always out. So basically, while your action skill is up, you get 20% gun damage. This is one of the other few places where Wilhelm just gets flat gun damage. 20% is pretty decent as a tier 1. You also get some max health, and Wolf max health. Obviously, the Wolf max health doesn't really matter, but you get a little bit of max health. So if you are health stacking, this tree has a lot of like benefits for health stacking, especially with Saint's flat health regen. Just as coming out of the package, which is based off max health. It couples with something like the Haymaker, like a shield that just gives you flat max health. It helps out a little bit. There's a lot of percentage max health skills in this tree, for sure.
All right, so yeah, anything else on that? I don't really have anything to say on it. It's
not really
flashy.
Solid. It's like it's not like it's a skill you take if you're gonna be Wolf and Saint. If you're gonna be canceling Wolf and Saint, you get rid of it. You don't take it, you take something else. But that's basically about it.
Yeah, that's actually a great way to look at it. If you're keeping them up, take it. If you're not, don't. Next is Energize. Saint ability. Saint will periodically recharge a portion of the shields of you and your friends. Additionally, Saint gains an increase to the rate at which he restores your health. So periodically restores 40% of max shields for you or an ally, and then Saint restores an additional 3% max health while active. That additional 3% is pretty good, because that already he has
that like 4% or 2 point something.
2.5, I think.
It is 2.5 plus the 3 from 5 out of 5. So
yeah,
it's about 5% of your max health a second. All kind of going in the theme of let's build max health. If you're going to be a Wilhelm tank, he's very health focused, and even like flat shield bonus, because he does give you that that flat shield regen just by having Saint out. It doesn't happen too frequently, but occasionally regenerating the 40% of your shield is definitely.
Also, because this game doesn't have the Rough Rider or the Love Thumper.
It doesn't. Yeah, there's no like anti-synergy shields that it works with. Extra shield capacity is always a good thing.
And there's not a whole lot of people running like roid stripping melee in the pre-sequel like you ran into in Borderlands 2.
Yeah, basically all our melee characters don't really run melee shields for the most part. It's a decent skill. Again, only take it if you're going to be having Wolf and Saint out. Does get boosted by a lot of comms. I'm looking at a 10 out of 5 Enforcers with 60% of your shield capacity and 6% of your max health.
Pretty good.
Energize comes in a lot of different comms. It's an interesting skill. It's kind of one of those skills that's really boring to look at because it's shield and health regen, which aren't like, they're not flashy skills. They're not something
you're talking to a Maya player. I love survival skills.
Obviously, I don't need to convince Dirch about how cool regen is, but like it's a boring skill on the surface. But you'll end up liking it more when you kind of realize you're not dying as often, or at least you can stay at roughly about 50+% health and shield.
Yeah, and if you combine that with like or it's the Rio Genitor in this game, right? Not the Neo, but the Rio. You combine that with that flat healing plus these two, and your flat healing just goes nuts.
Yeah, it's weird with the Rio though because it has like TDR shield capacity.
Yeah,
and it's like you're not really. There's not too many shields that benefit from both aspects of this. If I was to think of one, it's the Haymaker, which has
health stacking just so you get more health per second.
Capacity.
Yep.
Yeah, or just kind of like an Anshin adaptive, something like that would work. Basically, because you're getting capacity based shield regen. Which instead of just just straight out like delay and recharge rate stats and stuff like that, something with notoriously low recharge stats and high capacity and health would kind of work. So basically, Anshin parts work well with this.
Any adaptive shields. Mm-hmm. Heat sinks increases or improves shield recharge rate and shield recharge delay. This bonus is doubled while Wolf and Saint are on cooldown. So it's a 5 out of 5. It's 30% recharge rate and 17% delay, which doesn't seem the most impressive. But the fact that it doubles when they're out, and if you're keeping them out, 60 and that 17 is a weird number.
Yeah, I don't know why it's 17. I'm trying to find a comp for it.
Yeah, I probably have one here.
Iron Golem, so let's go with...
Heat sink, there's a +4. So that brings it to 54 and 26.
Yeah, the Golem column is where you get the boost from Stone Golem, I think. But basically the idea is you don't take it if you're just going to be having the Wolf and Saint out, because one, it's kind of weird synergy with the Energize, which would boost your shield while your Wolf and Saint is out, which benefits from max capacity and stuff like that. And you don't really need like notoriously, if you're going to have really high capacity shields, they don't really have the recharge stats you want to be boosting.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but it does have some weird, cool synergies with your canceling builds, because obviously you're not going to be. You basically don't want the skill unless you're getting that double.
Yeah.
And while your Wolf and Saint are on cooldown for that 40 or so seconds, this definitely makes up a little bit for that missing regen you're getting because you're not having Wolf out, basically.
Yeah.
Or you're not having Saint out regenerating you. It's a weird skill. I usually don't take it unless I'm specifically running a Wolf and Saint canceling build. I haven't found a super great shield to work with this yet, but...
what about just the Shield of Ages? Because usually those bigger capacity turtle shields have slower recharge rates, and getting over 100% recharge rate if you boost this and have them down seems like a big deal.
Yeah, I guess if it works like that, it's percentage based recharge rate, right? So it's kind of weird that it's like the Shield of Ages has really slow rates and stuff, right?
Yeah,
if I remember. So you're not getting the best possible boost out of it, but you never know. It's a weird skill for sure. it basically puts like heavy capacity, low recharge skills on par with like kind of normal shields, and then it kind of makes normal shields like into pseudo TDRs in a way, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I always love anything with delay, and it's a decent delay boost. The rate's pretty nice, but yeah, like you said, rate's dependent on shield, because some shields just don't need that at all, like TDRs.
Yeah.
Termination Protocols replaces Fight for Your Life with Termination Protocols. During Termination Protocols, you can walk at reduced speed, fire your weapons, and you constantly shock nearby enemies. If the timer runs out, your power core goes critical, releasing a nuclear explosion.
Should remind you of one of those Krieg skills. I guess it's the dynamite one.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a weird skill in the fact that I basically only use it so I get a little bit more mobility and fight for my life. You don't go to that slow crawl. You kind of like slowly walk into enemies. Basically, the boom doesn't do too much damage. Sometimes it'll bring you up when you're like just barely miss out on a kill, but it's not a mandatory skill. But it's one that's nice to have if you're kind of want to maximize your fight for your life. It's not an amazing game changer, but it's kind of interesting to take. I usually take it just for the sake of it's only a 1-point skill. It's not like you need a super big investment in it, and it can potentially save your life at the very least. Not with the explosion or the shock feathers, but like just allowing you to maneuver a little bit more.
Yeah. Just that's kind of a big deal, and also the animation is fucking awesome.
Yeah, you get this like nuclear core reactor. It's like
I just demonstrated it on screen for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it looks beautiful. Let's say it. Sometimes it's worth it just to look at it.
Yeah.
Now, if you get them with the power core explosion, you
come back up.
Okay. That is a second win then.
Yeah. If someone dies in the explosion, you get back up. The shock tethers are kind of annoying for some people because it's just kind of visual pollution in some cases, but
I play a lot of Jack. Nothing compares to that.
Yep.
So yeah, grab it, but it's not something you're going for.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, you're not going up the tree for this skill.
And let's be honest, the pre-sequel's got enough skill points to toss around where getting 1 point.
Yeah, you can just throw them around in places.
Yeah. Rapid Reinforcement is a kill skill. Killing an enemy increases your cooldown rate for Wolf and Saint and increases your movement speed and reload speed for a short time.
It's a boring skill, but it's a good skill. It doesn't do anything too interesting, but the numbers it gives are really, really high. If I take a look at it, it's at 5 out of 5.
Yeah, 15% movement, 40 reload, and 20 cooldown.
Yeah. And that all adds up with auxiliary tanks. If you're going to be canceling, you take it anyways. It's what you take when you go down the skill tree. It's a solid kind of passive buff to your DPS and maneuverability. 40% reload speed on kill skill is cool.
Very solid.
It's really nice.
Is this boostable by comms?
Yeah, there's a few comms that boost it. I don't know
because
which
80%
ones,
reload is legit.
I don't think it's boostable by his main legendaries, but there's a few that specifically boost it.
Okay.
I do remember it being boosted by something. Maybe the fighter? No. I'll find it eventually.
I'll find it. We're going to go through the comms later anyways. But
yep.
Yeah, boosted, that sounds really sexy.
Mm-hmm. The mech boosted.
All right. Yeah, there's not a whole lot else to say on that. I mean, reload speed is great. Movement speed is always welcome. It's a small movement speed buff, but any movement speed is good. And
it's not really an interesting skill. It's just like a good skill. You take it when you're going down the tree because it's a solid buff.
Yep.
It's boring, but it's good.
0 hour Saint ability. When Saint is recalled or expires, he explodes, deploying a healing zone underneath you. You and your friends regenerate health while standing in the zone. It lasts for 12 seconds and 8% of your health per second. So
this is kill switch for Saint. 8% is a pretty big number for a 1.1.
Yeah. The zone is pretty small, but...
it is small. I do admit that, but... and that kind of causes some issues with a couple of his other skills in the Cyber Commando tree. particularly. I'll get to that later, but
Yep.
When I get to it, but it's
Just generally in the pre-sequel, the flow of combat, you're moving around a lot more than you are in Borderlands 2 because of the double jumping, the low gravity.
The combat flow is definitely more
faster,
movement based, and more vertical. And,
Yep.
Ooh, I do want to. I didn't test this beforehand, but I wonder how if it has like a ground limit, or is it like
I can check here.
the Borderlands 2 beta things where
on
with something on the ground basically counts for everything vertically above it.
There is a limit because I double jumped and I stopped healing.
Okay, that's a kind of a bummer, but I mean,
but just regular jumping I did not.
Okay.
So why did that not work?
Regardless, it's something you take. It's basically the kill switch for Saint. It's every time you activate you cancel your action skill, you'll send Wolf to explode, and Saint will give you a little bit of a health boost if you happen to be standing in the circle. It's a 1-point wonder that's basically only worth taking if you really need the health regen and you're basically gonna kind of turtle it out for a little bit, or B you're just canceling Wolf and Saint anyways, and you might as well get that little bit of health regen while you happen to be on the circle. It's not something you take generally. I take it when I cancel Wolf and Saint, but that's about it. It's just one of Wilhelm's several 1-point wonders you can take if you need to, but you definitely don't have to take.
Yeah, I just double checked it there. I threw on the Shield of Ages and then the Haymaker to give some health, and it worked to the peak of my jump, but when I hit the boost, it stopped. But I wasn't out of that boost range for very long, so generally, if you're in air, above it is going to be healing you.
Yeah, okay.
Unless you're at the very peak of your jump, so that's pretty good. And 8% a second is a lot.
It's a big number. This is not something you want to shake a stick at. It's considering what 5 out of 5 energize gave you like 3.
Yeah,
and
that's significant healing.
Gives you, and that's also for your allies too.
Yep.
So you can basically like create like a circle of healing, like oh shit, like huddle up and then heal up if you need it.
Yeah, it's just those bubbles in this game are just hard to be in. Like, I found the same thing. Athena's got a lot of those bubble skills where if you're in her bubble, you get, shield and health or whatever, but it's hard to keep people in her bubble.
For sure. It's hard to keep people in the bubble because everyone's basically jumping around like some maniacs.
Yeah.
It's not something that traditionally caters itself to TPS.
Yep.
But it's a nice thing to have if you happen to be kind of...
I take it just for myself. I mean, fuck.
Yeah, you take it for you. Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Because it's 8%. It's a big number.
Yeah, and I can stay in that bubble myself for a few seconds.
Yeah, for sure.
Hazmat containment system. If you have an incendiary, shock, or corrosive elemental effect on you, you and your friends gain increased resistance to that element. Additionally, you will occasionally spread that elemental effect to nearby enemies for its duration.
It's a
resistance
weird,
plus 50%. Skill. Yeah.
It's a very weird skill.
And dots aren't as scary in this game as they are in Borderlands 2 either.
One, you don't burn in space, I'm pretty sure.
Nope, yes. You don't.
I know you can't burn enemies. I don't know if you can't burn yourself.
I don't think you can start on fire either unless there's oxygen.
Yeah, and there's another thing that you're rarely ever nearby enemies for the most part because you're usually like an insane maniac, just like usually jumping around, and it's kind of weird that there's not too many places where you get dots on you, and if there is, it's not too useful. It does give you like a pretty big boost to elemental resistance at one point. It does get boosted by the Chronicler, so if you do get the Chronicler, you take the 1 point to get it at 5 out of 5 and just get elemental resistance for 1 point.
Yeah.
It's a pretty big chunk of elemental resistance because I think at 5 out of 5 it's 50%.
Yep, it is.
Yes. And you also get, you give that to your allies too, so it's kind of like, it's something to get if you happen to be getting the Chronicler. I usually don't take it because dots aren't really that scary. Especially not on BL2 levels where dots like...
Also, Wilhelm has so many passive healing. So with this elemental resistance, is that just against the dots, or is that against the elements themselves as well? Like if you take a fire dot, do you resist fire damage?
I think that's how it works. It has.
So that makes it better.
Yeah, it makes it better, but you need to be eating that dot for as long as you're eating that dot, and that's it. Also, what's it called? Considering Wilhelm is flesh and not like armor, like
yep. There's not too many fire dots because a lot of times you're not in oxygen.
Yeah, exactly. And
although there are a lot of fire lasers out in this game, a lot of those enemies in the late game are carrying fire lasers.
Yeah, but what's it called? If you do have a claptrap on your team, this might be actually
yeah, because he's
worth
actually
taking
armor.
Because corrosion eats that thing alive. I hate that corrosion actually like kills claptraps super hard. So and that has the longest duration out of all things. So if you have a claptrap and you might want to consider taking this skill, at least the 1 point to maybe like help him not die as frequently to whatever random corrosion dot spammer there is. I think a couple of the doll mercenaries, once they have some lasers of various degrees, most of them are fire. There are some corrosion ones, but yeah, it's a niche skill. I don't know what I don't know. It's a weird skill. I usually don't take it, but if you have a chronicler, you take the 1 point in it. It's weird.
I can see the idea of it, whether they're going tanky, but it just seems unnecessary.
Yeah.
I do appreciate the co-op effect and embracing co-op more in this game, but this one just doesn't seem that great.
Yeah.
Especially for being tier 4.
At the end of the day, it's just dot resistance. I mean, like, you have that... Not dot, elemental resistance.
Yeah.
If it gave something else, like if it gave like maybe max health and dot resistance, or maybe like regen and dot resistance, maybe it's a little more all-purpose, but where it is right now, it's kind of a weird thing to take, especially when compared to rapid reinforcement on the same tier.
Yeah. Next we have kinetic armor. Increases your max health. Additionally, close range attackers have a chance to be struck by explosive feedback. The closer an enemy is to you, the more likely they are to be struck. Max health plus 25%, explosive feedback up to 25% chance.
It's dumb. You take it if you're stacking health.
Yeah.
The melee explosion thing is garbage. You basically only take this for the 25% max health. It doesn't screw you over as often as you think it would, because there aren't too many like melee attackers basically that you're going to be caring about.
If you're going up against like a buttload of Kragans and stuff, I can see it.
I guess. Yeah, okay. I can see that. I guess you situationally take it depending on if you don't want to screw yourself over by kind of like blowing enemies away. Basically, the only use I see in this skill is the max health, and it's not even that big of a max health bonus, especially at tier 5.
Yeah.
Jeez. Yeah. It's like it's like
if this was like tier 1 or 2, but yeah, tier 5 it seems a little bit
tier 5, 25% max health, and I don't think it's boosted by anything either. Oh, if you compare it to man versus machine, that gives you 15% max health and shield at tier 1 in Cyber Commando. Compared to kinetic armor, which is 25 at the tier 5. No.
Yeah.
It's pretty much garbage. At the very least, it's situation. At its best, it's situational. At its worst, it's complete garbage, and even detrimental to take it.
Then, what do we got next? Hard to kill. Whenever you are shot or struck by an enemy, you gain a stack of hard to kill, reducing damage received from all sources. All stacks are lost after a few seconds elapse without taking damage. So at 5 out of 5, 0.5% damage reduction per stack, up to 100 stacks. This seems like it can add up pretty quick.
But these stacks wear off fast. They wear off really, really fast. That's what it makes a super niche skill. John R. on the forums, really great guy. He really knows his Wilhelm. He's basically the diehard Wilhelm main of the TPS forums. He finds a really hard use for this hard to kill skill, mainly because the stacks wear away super quickly, and there's not too many places where you need that much damage reduction, except level 9 Mutator. Those enemies don't die very easily, and they do a shit ton of damage. Basically, how you need the skill for Wilhelm to survive level 9 mutator, because you take so much damage, and it's literally like so much damage that you need that much damage reduction, and that's basically where he's found any use out of it. For normal combat, and the TPS kind of combat flow of not too many enemies, it's kind of like enemies kind of enemy expanses. You're not taking that much damage to kind of keep those stacks up the whole time. So they wear off way quicker than you expect them to, and at a tier 5 skill, it kind of it seems more useful than it is, because those stacks wear off way quickly, way quicker than you would expect them to, and you'll end up having really, really low stacks the whole time, and you'll never be able to maintain them for the most part.
Okay, yeah, and that's
cool
a big complaint of my. I actually complained about that yesterday in my TPS review.
Yeah, it's cool in concept, but only really useful in practice on a level 9 mutator. Where
so if they would just tweak it so the stacks lasted a little bit longer, then it would be really good. But that's essentially the issue with it, right? Just too fast.
Yeah, exactly. Those stacks decay way too quickly for it to be used in anything. Like even bosses, it's like.
So you pretty much just skip this tier 5 altogether.
Yeah, basically what I do is I double back to tier 1 or 2 for, I usually take auxiliary tanks, fortify, and energize, or auxiliary, like heat sinks and something else, depending on if I'm canceling or not. I usually double back to the tier 1 and 2 when I'm trying to get to the capstone, which is, I'll let you explain it.
Yes. So, Overcharge, Saint ability. Immediately after being summoned, Saint releases an energy wave that overcharges you and any nearby friends for a short duration. Overcharged players gain increased movement speed, fire rate, reload speed, and ammo regeneration. The movement speed is 15%, the reload speed is 75%, the fire rate is 75%, the ammo regeneration is plus 10, and it lasts for 10 seconds. So, I just shot off my hail a little bit, I'm going to put them out, and yeah, the ammo recharge here is fast. The fire rate is insane. The movement speed is fantastic. I love this. I also play with John R. a lot. Me, him, and Avex. A bunch of people used to run the Holodome a bunch. And this was such a good skill, especially in the Holodome, where you can definitely run really low on ammo towards the end of some of those rounds.
This one skill makes an entire build.
Yeah.
This skill alone, all that wolf canceling stuff I've been talking about beforehand, it's because of this skill. Like
you just keep canceling them to keep this up.
75% fire rate, 10%
and ammo
plus 10 ammo regen, and like this makes like the Vladoff weapons. They're super viable on Wilhelm because he gets constant ammo regen.
Yeah.
You can run snipers, like combat snipers, like a Droog or a machine or anything like that, because Wilhelm has really nice ammo regen.
Yeah.
It's like this skill is like literally, I think like this is like one of his best skills. Like this laser guided and a skill I want to get to a little bit later are like my favorite skills, and this skill alone makes an entire build because it's that good of a buff. Like you sent out Wolf and Saint, you get your overcharge buff, recall them, you get all those other bonuses from recalling your stuff, and then you get overcharge up in like 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good skill. It's amazing. If you're playing Wilhelm, you go up to overcharge. That's just a fact.
Yeah, it just
and not to mention it's all co-op buffs too.
Yep. Yeah, for teammates this is huge, and it's equal to you and teammates, which is awesome, because a lot of times buffs like these, it'll be like bigger for you and less for your teammates, but this is just equal.
Yeah, and they're big numbers.
Yeah, they're huge numbers, and the ammo regen alone is almost worth it. But when you add in everything else, I mean, yeah, we loved every time John popped this, and it was great.
Yeah, it's like this skill is literally like this is one of Wilhelm's best skills. This is why you play Wilhelm.
Yeah, it just sucks because the tree is kind of lackluster.
Yeah, the tree kind of sucks. As I mentioned before, everything below like there's there's only one skill outside of overcharge below the game changer that I take 100% of the time on Will. Kinetic armor is garbage. Hard to kill is very situational and niche. Hazmat containment unit, I only take it when I'm using a chronicler for a 1.1.
Mm-hmm.
0 hour, very situational, because it is a high regen, but only in a specific area. And rapid reinforcement, which of course is the only real kind of overall good skill in that bottom half of the tree, other than overcharge. But overcharge is worth it.
Yeah.
So basically, you ignore all the things below the game changer, take rapid reinforcement, and then get your overcharge. And that's basically your build for most Wilhelms. You take 3 out of the 4 skills of the bottom 3. Then you take your termination protocol usually, and then you take rapid reinforcement, and then you take overcharge. And that's going to be on most of your Wilhelm builds for sure. You might slide some points around depending on if you're canceling some stuff or whatever have you, but that's basically how you build most Wilhelms, because that overcharge ability is just so freaking great. It's just a shame that the rest of the skills, especially the more tank-oriented skills, are really situational and kind of, especially considering this is supposed to be a tank tree, at least to some degree, in combination with Sniper Commando.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know, it's got a lot of weirdness to it, basically.
Yeah. It's a shame that 3 out of his, there's 3 super situational skills at the really bottom of the tree. There's not really much worth taking up near the bottom of the tree, but overcharge is so good that you have to go down the tree.
Yeah.
So it's kind of unfortunate that he's kind of shoehorned into a specific kind of 20-something points, because there isn't much variety you can choose here. Your variety is basically whether or not you want heat sinks or fortify, basically.
Yeah.
And if you're canceling a Wolf and Saint build, only 2 of these skills really apply. So you're basically going to have to take hard to kill just for the heck of it.
You almost have to waste.
Yeah, you basically have to waste points in hard to kill or hazmat containment unit just for the points, because you need to get down to overcharge, because that's why your build is a thing. Because you can't get energize or fortify if Wolf and Saint aren't out.
Yep. Which. Yeah, I remember when Wilhelm first came out and just looking at the skill trees, this skill tree just annoyed me to no end. I'm like, all right, I like the cooldown, and I like the capstone, and that's about it.
Yeah, it's an ugly tree, but overcharge almost makes up for it, but the rest of the tree is so ugly and gross. And
yeah, and that's as much as I've been praising the pre-sequel skill trees,
this one tree, Wilhelm's trees are kind of a mess.
And they've done such good, healing and tanking. Sal's tank tree failed in Borderlands 2. Maya's healing tree was awesome. And then this one, they just kind of missed the boat on.
Hit and miss. Just, if I were to fix this tree, maybe give Hazmat Containment Unit some other tank stat in addition to the elemental resistance. Maybe to heavy emphasize on screw dots, we'll give it health regen, just base health regen too, and just kind of overdub on I'm the health regen tank if I'm going down this tree. Maybe kind of double triple down on just super health regen, maybe. Hard to kill, it's weird just because that's how TPS's combat flow works, and we've already mentioned it, kind of how it's really awkward to maintain your stacks. Maybe if they just increase the duration of stacks before they...
I think they do that. That's an awesome skill. If they just increase the duration and just... You can't increase it too much because then it can be broken, but...
Yeah. But as it is right now, they decay way too quickly to make any use in just kind of normal combat outside of the level 9 mutator. It's almost mandatory in the level 9 mutator. Wilhelm.
Yeah.
So, the Wilhelm Tree, Cyber Commando. First, laser focus. Increases gun damage and magazine size with all lasers. Laser damage plus 20% and magazine size plus 12.
So, is it plus 12 at 5 out of 5?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So, the thing you want to note here is the magazine size for the lasers is a flat amount. So, now, think of something like the Absolute Zero, which has 12 base mag? You're adding flat numbers to this. So you're basically essentially doubling the mag of something like the Absolute Zero with the skill like this. Obviously, it's only useful with the lasers, but the thing you want to look at is it's adding flat magazine size. So even though it's something like the Laser Discer, that thing has huge base damage, which obviously gets boosted by the laser guided. But when you chuck that thing, it's like you're chucking an apocalypse. It's see ya.
Yeah.
Because you're adding flat magazine size to it, and it gets boosted by, I think, only one comm, but it's one of Wilhelm's best kind of blast cannon DPS comms in the high-tech blaster. And that kind of bonus gets super big, especially with like your Malo-1 bonuses and stuff like that. For most kind of your best lasers are usually Malo-1.
Yeah.
And for something like the Absolute Zero, constant firing with the flat magazine boost works out really well as well, because you get to fire it for much longer.
And with the Spadroon, you don't care about an extra 12 in that.
Yeah, the Spadroon. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's the mag boost is kind of the bigger thing you want to see here, rather than the damage. The damage isn't that exciting, but the mag boost kind of is like that hidden DPS increase that works with very specific guns, like as I said, the Absolute Zero. Which
I just wish I wish the laser damage was at least 25%, being that it's only for lasers.
Yeah, exactly.
20% to be limited to just lasers seems a little low. I know it's tier 1, but and it's always on. It's not a kill. It's whatever, but it is only lasers. So
yeah, which makes it basically makes his first two skills really awkward, considering the other one is kind of a weird skill as well. Might want to go into that.
So yeah, Man in the Machine increases shield capacity and maximum health for you and Wolf. Shield capacity and maximum health for you 15%, for Wolf 25%.
Basically, the Wolf stuff is negligible. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
And 15%, it's not great, but it's way better than something like Kinetic Armor, which is a tier 5 skill.
Yeah.
You get 15% health, 15% shield. It's not really an amazing skill to look at. It's something that's nice to have, but not all Wilhelm skills really want to be tanky. And it's kind of like it's not like they want. Not everyone appreciates the health and shield. It's just kind of a boring thing that to be shoehorned into if you don't have a laser that you're using. So it's kind of makes his first points a little bit awkward, where it's like you either get something really boring and kind of not interesting, or you use a laser, which is kind of it's a decent skill for what it is. It's just not. It's not really something you really like taking when you don't have a laser, but it's something you have to take because you get literally no benefit out of laser focus.
Yeah.
If you make this kind of a more general skill that's more pliable to everything else, and maybe like switch it with maybe First to Fight or something like that, it makes that decision a little bit more better. But it doesn't feel good picking this skill when you're comparing it to something like laser focus.
Yeah. The next one is kind of an odd one too. First to the Fight increases gun damage. This bonus is lost 5 seconds after you deal damage and is regained after 5 seconds of not dealing or taking damage. The boost is pretty big at 40%, but it doesn't seem like it's going to be active that often.
It's weird. It's a weird skill. It is a 40% gun damage. Like, that's huge.
Yeah.
But you only get to see it a lot when you're sniping, usually.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is a good skill when you're sniping, because you can basically... You get to choose when you activate this bonus. You get super bonus for 5 seconds, and you're probably not going to get hit for the next 5 seconds. It's weird, though, because it kind of stagnates your combo flow. And I told you how Wilhelm works, where you want to be constantly jumping from target to target with laser focus. To make sure you have all these kill skills up, and a skill like First to Fight, if you're using that kind of combat style, it's kind of weird in a way that it works for sniping, but it doesn't really work for what you'd expect to be core kind of Wilhelm combat, where you're kind of jumping from target to target with laser focus, and you don't in that kind of combat style, you really never get that 5 seconds of, you never want to have that 5 seconds of downtime, really, for the most part, because 5 seconds is 5 seconds you're losing from your Wolf and Saint duration. It's 5 seconds you're losing from your kill skills. It's something you want to kind of avoid when you're kind of applying to that skill, that kind of...
and it's a pretty big gun boost, and he doesn't have a lot of gun boost, and that's what makes it somewhat depressing for me when I look at it.
It's like, it's a good stat, but you don't want to take it because most of the time you're not going to get the most out of it unless you are sniping. If you are sniping, you take it because...
I mean, on a boss fight, this does nothing, really.
Yeah, exactly.
Your first few hits on the boss are bigger, but...
You're never going to get those 5 seconds of downtime with a boss.
Yeah. Nope, never.
Yeah.
So you're only going to get it for 5 seconds for an entire boss fight.
You get it if you're going a sniper build, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Or if you have a comm that boosts it, I think the siege howitzer might boost this. If you're going like a purple comm, you take the 1 point to get down the tree instead of something like power fist as your game changer, just to get to the other goodies later in the tree.
Yeah.
When you do take it as like a normal Wilhelm, you take it as a 1 point wonder when you're boosted by a comm. But unless you're sniping, it's so rare that you get that bonus, and 5 points for a 5-second bonus is cool, but it's not going to happen too much, especially for a 5-point investment.
And Borderlands is like, even if you snipe with Borderlands, you're not always that far back, just the way enemy spawns are and everything. So you're not always safe sniping either. It's kind of mid-range sniping. It's not like a realistic shooter where you have your long distance sniping from cover, duck down. It's... Anyways, targeting scope. Kill skill. Killing an enemy increases your accuracy and critical damage for a few seconds. So critical damage 50%, accuracy 25%.
I love this skill. I freaking love this skill. It's a kill steal, of course. It's not up all the time, but going in the whole combat flow where you're hopping from enemy to enemy, you're basically keeping it up for obviously laser focus is one big deal when you're kind of keeping up the wolf duration. The other big reason is because targeting skill is really, really cool. Because if you one of his main comms is the Celestial Enforcer, and that boosts this by 5. So that's 100% crit. You don't want to that's a pretty big deal, and it synergizes with guns with high base damage in general. There's also stuff like the Commando laser, which is the only rocket that can crit outside of like niche shenanigans. But
which I've been playing a lot with that lately since I covered it in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
And basically, you get to crit with that, and you get plus 100% crit, and you also make that thing pinpoint accurate. It's insane seeing how small the crosshairs go when you have targeting scope up. It's literally insane.
And this is also, again, accuracy. So if you combine this with
like a flare
afterburner for the reload speed, with the flare, you can really crank damages up pretty good.
Yeah, it's like a super DPS boost for specific guns, like the shotguns and your Gatlings and your miniguns and what have you. But like, it's just a really great skill. It is a kill steal. It's not up all the time, but
the boosts are big enough to justify it.
Yeah, those boosts are huge, especially when you're comm boosted. It's like,
and it's tier 2.
Oh my god, it's tier 2. It's 50% kill. I've pretty much gone over my 3 favorite skills, and combine this with escalation too, because that's type B. Boost. I love this skill. Yeah. Basically, my 3 favorite skills in Wilhelm's Tree is targeting scope, laser focus, and overcharge. And considering targeting scope a basic skill is comparing to something like 2 really, really great game changers is like
a pretty big deal.
Considering this is probably one of his best skills in this tree, and it's a basic skill at tier 2, it's fantastic.
He just needs 1 or 2 more skills like that.
Yeah.
Next is Power Fist, a cyborg augmentation. Press R to perform an explosive punch with an extended range. This ability has a cooldown. So as you can see, he changed here for people on screen.
Do you happen to have a Jacob's revolver on you?
I don't think so.
Okay. If you did, it looks really funny when you shoot it. It basically covers half your screen. Because that giant fist is basically on the back of your revolver. It's because you're fanning the hammer when you shoot it.
Yeah.
And that's the hand you see when you're fanning the hammer. It's a weird skill. Obviously, it's a melee augment, so it kind of really annoying.
Not a vendor either.
Yeah, unfortunate. It is really funny to look at if you get like a Maggie or something, just to see how ridiculous it looks when you're using it with a Jacob's pistol. But it's a weird skill. It's not really that cool for damage. It's something you might want to take. I don't like it when because I use a lot of yellow glitch weapons, which you're constantly canceling with melees to keep that loop glitch up. And that's kind of like, it takes a long time to melee with it. If you've shown it on screen a couple
Yep.
times. It's kind of it's a way longer melee animation than what's usual, because he usually just butts you with the butt of his gun. But with this, it's kind of like this really long, drawn out animation, and it's really annoying to do when you're canceling like a loop glitch with it, which you're constantly meleeing. I wouldn't take it if you are using a yellow glitch weapon, but it's fun to have, especially with cryo when you just like punch somebody and it explodes.
Yeah.
It's cool. I don't think it's useful enough to justify, but there's a point where like what else are you gonna put that 1 point in to go down the tree? You can put it in first to fight, or you can put it in this, and
I've seen a lot of people just like it because it's fun and cool.
Yeah, it's
and
fun.
With the cryo bonus, it seems to do decent damage.
Yeah, it's a Timmy skill. It's fun.
Yeah. Well, also, like, again, the cryo gets bonuses from explosives and melee, and this is both.
Yeah, for sure. It's definitely good in combination with cryo, but it's more of like a fun thing to do. It's not like it's not like you need the damage to like deal with your common enemies, and it's not like you're meleeing a boss anytime soon to like get really good damage. It's just fun to use to like pop somebody with your explosion fist, and it does get in the way with a couple things. Obviously, like with your giant robot fist and a Jacob's pistol, it literally covers like half the screen. But yeah, it's a fun skill. It's not really something I'd usually take because I don't like the visual kind of pollution of it, and I like using some yellow glitches and having that longer extended melee animation every now and then to cancel your loop glitch is kind of really annoying. But it's a fun skill for sure. And it's one of his 3 cyber augmentation skills to get that flavor of that I am Mr. Roboto kind of feel.
Which I like that, and I kind of turned his body around so people could see that change in the screen there.
Yeah. So this is one of his cyber augmentations. You get the Go-Go Gadget Rocket Fist, and
it's cool. It's not great.
It's cool. It's flavorful. It's fun, and it's definitely like it's passive damage when you melee, of course, and it gives you that extended melee punch.
I kind of wish the cooldown on this was just a lot shorter, or it just didn't have one. Because if it didn't have a cooldown and all of your melee hits were like this, then I could see you doing a melee build around it.
Yeah. One thing I really thought would have been cool if do you remember the engineers from BL2? And they had that kind of rock
the ground pound. That would have been cool.
If they added that aspect to it, that'd be fun. That'd be really fun. But yeah, it's a fun skill. I don't like it because it's kind of annoying to deal with, and I like using like loop glitch Torg rifles and stuff like that. But it's fun. It's fun, but it's not like good in my opinion.
Emergency response. Emergency response is activated whenever your shield is depleted, increasing your fire rate and reload speed, as well as Wolf's fire rate for a short duration. Your shield must be fully recharged between activations. Reload speed plus 30. Fire rate plus 30. Wolf fire rate plus 50. It's too bad this game didn't have a Rough Rider.
Yeah, but the thing you want to look at is that duration of 15 seconds.
That's a long duration.
Really long duration. That's like a double kill. Like, basically.
The Rio breaks really easy, too, and he's good with health stacking, so I can see that.
Yeah, exactly. You don't even need, like, that constantly breaking up a shield, really. That's,
15 seconds
you have 15
is pretty
seconds
long.
to recharge your shield. And that's a pretty decent buff for 15 seconds. It does get boosted by a lot of things, but I think the first point does more than the rest of it. I think the first point is like 10 and everything, and then it goes up by 5 from there. Obviously, it's really kind of annoying to check because you already leveled it up, but I think the first point does a lot more than usual. But it's something you take because obviously fire rate and reload speed are good stats, and the duration is really, really long. And obviously Wolf fire rate is good too if you're going to be using a Wolf build, but
I put up to 9 to 5 and they're 50, 50, and 90.
50, 50, and 90.
At 9 out of 5.
Yeah, because that first skill point gives you 10, and then it's plus 5 from there, right? Yeah, that makes sense.
So yeah, but it's really good skill, I would say.
Yeah, it's a good skill. That duration is kind of like the hidden part of this.
Well, and
skill.
reload and fire rate on one skill is pretty. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, Wilhelm has basically like the king of like non-damage DPS buffs. You should see by now that a lot of its reload speed, a lot of its fire rate.
Mm-hmm.
Not too many damage, and not too much damage buffs, but a lot of reload speed and fire rate.
Krieg was kind of like that in Borderlands too. Mm-hmm. He had a lot of indirect DPS, but of course he had a few massive DPS ones.
Yeah.
Next is... Oh, or do you have anything else to add to that?
No. I think it's a good skill. You usually take it 5 out of 5. At the very least, take 1 out of 5 for that like slightly more boost when you have that first point, because it's a single point 10-10, like 15 or something like that.
Yep. Which is pretty
it's
solid.
A good skill.
Shock absorbers. Cyborg augmentation. Legs integrated stabilizers allow you to shoot while sprinting. While doing so, you deal additional gun damage and suffer no accuracy penalties.
So when you take this point, you get Go-Go Gadget rocket legs or something like that. You might be able to see in the full model. You kind of get your little shock absorbers on your legs.
Yeah, I can't really see it in first person here, unfortunately.
You might, if you go into what's it called? The
customization.
inventory screen, you might be able to see the...
Not inventory, I couldn't see it there. But customization, I should be able to.
Okay. It's a weird skill in the sense that it is 20% gun damage for a single point, but only while you're on the ground running. Which is kind of weird for TPS, because unlike BL2, you're jumping a lot in your regular combat flow. And obviously it's free gun damage that you can take while you're running on the ground. But if you're jumping a lot, it doesn't get the bonus, and basically you have to be sprinting on the ground to use it. And it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard mental tax to kind of like remember to be sprinting while using it, and not jumping around. It is free. It is 20% gun damage for 1 point, which is like pretty damn good. But it's kind of like an annoying thing to kind of remember that you have to like, okay, I have to be on the ground sprinting. But
also, when you're on the ground sprinting, it's also hard to like stay on a target, and then you can't strafe and do that. You have to be running forward, and that kind of limits it.
It's kind of a mental taxing skill, and it's kind of...
Yeah, I don't actually like this very much, to be honest.
It's definitely hard to maintain. It's you kind of have to accept a way of life when you're playing Borderlands if you want to be using this shock absorber ability, because it is 20% boost, but you have to play like suboptimally basically to use it, which is kind of weird.
Which almost defeats the point of the 20% boost.
Weird. If you get really good at running and shooting at the same time, it's a free 20% damage buff. But
but if you're running and shooting, how often are you going to be able to reliably crit enemies?
Yeah, exactly. If you're good and you can do it, go crazy. But it's a weird ability. It's something you might want to take if you're occasionally running to get the points. But like, I usually skip it because I'm usually not patient enough to learn to remember to run when I'm shooting.
Yeah. But there's just so many times where like that running to shooting is not an option.
Yeah.
You can't run to shoot deadlift, probably.
Yeah.
You can't run to shoot RK5 that well. I mean, I guess you could, but it's going to be hard to like hit him as he's flying in the air and you're like running in circles shooting at him. Where a lot of these things you're better off not.
Like in ideal scenarios, it's a really good ability. In rosy pink glasses, it's like, oh cool, 20% gun damage and all that other stuff. Like in 1 point, it's amazing. But in practice, it's really annoying to use, and it's in like a normal TPS player's kind of repertoire, it's not going to come up as often as you think it will. Yep. And it's going to be really annoying to maintain. So take it or leave it. If you want to practice kind of using it, it's something to. 20% damage is nothing to shake a stick at, but it's really annoying in practice to use. It's weird.
Next, divert power. When your shields are depleted, and your health is low,
Taking damage grants you massively increased shield generation and damage resistance for a few seconds. This ability has a cooldown. Is that too much to cause this to happen? So actually, I should say the health threshold is 30%. Cooldown is 25 seconds. The duration is 3 seconds. Damage resistance is 83.3%. And recharges 100% of your max shields. And it's kind of like a grit then, right?
Yeah, it's hard to... It's the thing that kills the skill is 25% cooldown. 25-second cooldown. That's a big deal. Because if you can't rely on the skill to tank, right? Because you pop it once, you recharge a little bit of your skill, your shield, and you get that damage resistance, and then it does nothing for 25 seconds. You have to wait for it to recharge.
What's the duration of those buffs? 3 seconds.
3 seconds.
Yeah.
So,
if it was like 5 seconds, maybe I could see that, but 3 seconds isn't long.
How me and John look at it is, it's a 1-point wonder basically. You get 30%. You get that 50% damage resistance and 20% your shield, and it's not worth investing all the points into, because obviously you get like a really big shield regen when you're low, but that 25% duration makes it super unreliable, especially when you're trying to tank. But it is really nice to get that 30% or that 20% shield regen on that first point, and the duration doesn't go up with points, I'm pretty sure. So it's definitely not worth investing all your points into, but it's good to take that 1 point.
That makes sense.
That single point, it's like, it is pretty decent health shield regen and damage resistance for 1 point. Because it's still, I think you still keep the 50% damage resistance and 20% shield from 1 point. It's also boosted by the Chronicler com. So you take 1 point in it and you get that free bonus of 100% shield regen.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have. It's kind of that fun little extra you get for adding to your tank ability, but you can't rely on the skill to tank, because that 25-second duration is not something you can fall back on to reliably recharge your shield.
Yeah. Well, the good news is, though, emergency response is so good that having a skill on the other side of it you only want to toss 1 point into kind of works.
Yeah, exactly. Wilhelm, just the king of 1-point wonders, really.
Yeah. Well, he's got a lot of diminishing return skills, where most characters don't.
Yeah, exactly.
Next is Meteor Slam. Increases the effective radius of your slam ability.
So, garbage. It doesn't increase the damage of your slam. It just increases the radius.
I mean, if you have a cryo...
Put 5 points in it.
Yeah, I did.
And just look at it.
It's bigger, but it's not big enough, I think, for 5 points.
It's not worth investing really any points into, because it's not really noticeable. You can get like the Cathartic Oz kit and maybe like, I can corrosive some things, but then again,
they didn't really get many of the slam augmentations quite right in this game for any of the characters.
Yeah, I think they imagined slam being cooler than it is.
I think slam is very cool, just for like the knockback, the slight stun, and then shoot them in the face. Like, I love it with shotgun builds, because I can just go up to them, slam an enemy back, pop them in the face, and...
I think they kind of expect it to be, like, slam to be more of a build, as I thought it was, maybe. Like, something like they thought maybe slam would be, like, a melee build, kind of like, it's like a niche build that everyone can run, maybe.
They never gave, really, the augments to make it that good. Because I was expecting when this game came out, I'm like, someone's gonna find out how to abuse the slams. Right? Yeah, someone's going to find a way to really abuse a slam mechanic and do a super OP slam build. Yeah, but that never really existed.
And the Oz kit support really isn't there. There is the Juggernaut Oz kit, which does a lot of slam damage, but
there's not a lot of characters that can boost slam damage outside of that to really crank that up.
And the skill definitely only boosting like the radius. It's kind of disappointing, and it's also a weird tier 5 skill. It's weird that Wilhelm has 3 tier 5 skills that are pretty much garbage in every tree. He has the Cold War skill at tier 5 in the Hunter Killer. He has Meteor Slam at tier 5 in the Cyber Commando, and then he has like Kinetic Armor at tier 5 in the Dreadnaught, and they're all kind of weird, situational, or garbage.
What about like just with like a cryo slam, just to use it to freeze a bunch of enemies?
It's cool. I don't think the radius increase is big enough.
Big enough to do that. See, if this radius was a little bit bigger and Power Fist
was like,
and Power Fist was no cooldown, just turn your melee into that attack, then that would be a cool build. You put on like a cryo juggernaut comm, you just go around slamming, freezing everything, and punching the shit out of it. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, like it's a weird
but it's
skill.
Not
it's just right now it doesn't do enough, and it's a tier 5 skill, and no.
See, I really hope in Borderlands 3 they bring slams back, and
like
they
some kind of jetpack system or whatever have you.
Yeah, basically a jetpack, and you can still slam, and they do some cooler slam skills. Because a lot of times your first crack at things, like look at Borderlands 1, have you recently gone back and looked at those skill trees?
Oh yeah,
they're so
Borderlands 1 skills are really boring.
Yeah, and I just have a feeling if they keep the double jump in like rocket packs instead of Oz kits or whatever, they could do some really cool things with the slams.
Yeah, for sure. But as it is right now, it's not worth building into, and it's definitely not worth putting points into for this kind of skill tree.
Next is Welcome to the Gun Show. Great name. You are now better with guns in nearly every regard. Increases gun damage, reload speed, magazine size, accuracy, and recoil. This is a better Ranger. 15% damage, 13% reload speed, 15% magazine size, 13% accuracy, and 13% recoil.
It's basically a more focused Ranger.
Ranger hit a few more skills, but I'd rather have a few less and better boosts.
Mm-hmm. It should be noted that obviously these boosts aren't that great, but they're kind of some boosts that aren't very common in Wilhelm's skill tree. Obviously, 15% gun damage is not great, but it's basically one of his only sources of gun damage.
Yeah,
in most of his trees,
and this stuff is all always on.
Yeah, exactly. It's all always on. It's there's no condition for it. Magazine size is kind of cool too. He doesn't really have any flat magazine buffs outside of laser guided.
Well, you stack this with laser guide, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you kind of do with something like a laser discer. You get and the fun thing about that is that the high-tech blaster also boosts gun show.
Nice.
It boosts laser guided and gun show.
And this boosted is really good.
Yeah, it's really good when boosted. Might not be worth it 5 out of 5 when not boosted. It's kind of there are decent gun buffs, but
I don't know. I would see myself just still taking, because I just think Wilhelm needs all the gun buffs he has.
Yeah, exactly. You get all the gun buffs you can. You kind of take it just because you have to, and there really isn't that much better. What are you going to take points over? Are you going to max out divert power? Are you going to take power slam?
Jack's got a skill like this at tier. Is that believe?
I think it's the exact same point in the skill tree.
It's on the left side, not the right side. But yeah, it's a tier 5 middle tree. And it's 4 buffs instead of 5, but I think they're like 20 and 25%.
Yeah, but they're also kill skills, but just basically always on for Jack. So
yeah, that's probably what makes it a little bit better. But I don't know. I think this is good where it is, because it is boosting so many things. Like all those added up together make a pretty big difference.
There are some kind of weird things like that aren't necessarily noticeable and kind of weapon specific with like accuracy and recoil reduction, but. Still good, I guess, in the long run, depending on what kind of guns you're using.
Yeah, again, like splitters are so good in this game, and those are definitely going to help splitters. Mm-hmm. And between that and laser guided shotguns, obviously love them.
Yeah, and targeting scope kind of boosts your accuracy super tenfold with this.
And usually when you're jumping around, you're not at max accuracy, so accuracy
any
buffs
little
help
bits
that.
help.
Yeah,
it's basically like a little bit of something that doesn't seem that cool to have, but it's basically what's worth taking.
Yeah,
it doesn't feel good taking it, but it's like you take it because you don't really have much of a better choice.
Yeah,
especially if you're going to go down to the bottom of the tree, which is the laser, right? Yeah.
Vengeance Cannon. So yeah, now you saw that pop up on my back. Cyborg augmentation weapon. Whenever your shield is depleted, you activate your shoulder-mounted Vengeance Cannon. The Vengeance Cannon fires incendiary blast in tandem with your equipped weapon that lasts for a short period of time. Your shield must be fully recharged between activations.
So this is your Go-Go Gadget laser cannon.
Yeah.
The weird thing about this is that you have to let go of your fire button and repress it to activate the laser. So if you are just constantly firing and your shield happens to break, you have to kind of lift your hand off the trigger really quickly to reactivate the laser. It's kind of weird that it doesn't just activate while you are shooting, but
yeah,
it basically shoots a decent fire rate of fire novas. You can't augment it with any of your other fire rate skills, but it's like little tiny fire, kind of like fire torque shots in a way. Obviously, fire is not like an amazing element in the CPS because there's a lot of no atmosphere places where you don't burn with it, and there's
you still get your fire on flesh bonus. Like you don't get the dots, but you still get your fire on flesh bonus.
Exactly. It's just basically passive damage. It's not something you go down the tree for, but it's something you take while it's there because it is just passive DPS that if you don't really have to like kind of mind other than kind of making sure you untap your trigger button when you do activate it to kind of make sure you get that passive DPS. But like it's passive DPS. Everything's welcome. There is one weird thing with this because it actually works with the overload glitch unless they patched it out. While you're triggering your overload glitch for your yellow, I'm pretty sure you also get some weird random fire rate boost to this.
That makes sense.
It's weird.
I wouldn't be surprised if some of your gun things could pass off to it.
We haven't really gone too much in depth for it, but I know just flat fire rate boosts don't affect it, but it's weird that the yellow glitch does pass to it, which is it's weird. But you take it if you happen to be going down the tree. It's passive damage, fire versus flesh.
And shields break easy enough, so it's going to be active quite a bit.
And it also kind of works with emergency response and kind of your other stuff where it's like your shield breaks and now it's go time.
Yeah.
And
if you have like lifesteal stuff on you, it's more lifesteal. Not that there's a lot of Moxie guns, but
yeah, there isn't really much. There's
just the Vibra Pulse.
There's the Vibra Pulse and also the
Hail.
There's that calm, the midnight something.
Oh yeah. That Oz kit. But it has like almost no O2 capacity, making it hard to use.
Yeah, it's like 50 O2 capacity, but when you're in atmosphere, it also gives you the. It's good on Claptrap because it gives you lifesteal in atmosphere.
He doesn't care about
vacuum, and he doesn't breathe, right? So it's good on him, but it's obviously the 50 O2 in vacuum is kind of sucky, but it is another source of lifesteal. I think it's like 15% lifesteal when you're in a vacuum, which is pretty big for an Oz kit, especially when they generally don't do too much outside of like the Eddie, of course, which is just your god tier Oz kit.
So this tree, it's got really disappointing game changers then.
Yeah, it's
because you don't really
are good for flavor, but they're not good for general.
The shock absorbers kind of same thing, and Vengeance Cannon. I think Vengeance Cannon should have been a game changer.
Yeah, if Vengeance Cannon was a game changer, and then he had some. If Vengeance Cannon was instead of Shock Absorber, which is at the end of the day kind of a boring buff that's situational, kind of situationally useful, and he had some kind of weird, like I couldn't imagine what he would have, like maybe like some Terminator search mode kind of dealie, where he does some cool, awesome stuff. Yeah, exactly. Some cool whatever have you. When you're like a walking apocalypse, you just replace your weapons with like mini guns and stuff like that. Yeah, there's a little more potential, but it's cool to see like his model upgrade every time you take one of these cyber reinforcements.
Yeah,
it's a real cool flavor point for Wilhelm. It's just kind of a shame that his game changes really aren't that exciting to say the least. But the real highlight here is basically your targeting scope at level 2. It's actually insane how much damage you get from that crit, and that's kind of how you get a lot of your bonuses, especially. As a kill skill, it kind of really tailors to Wilhelm's general playstyle of hopping from enemy to enemy with laser guided, kind of keeping your duration up and keeping your kill skills up, and kind of tailors to why Wilhelm isn't really good at bossing, because a lot of your damage does come from targeting scope, especially when boosted.
So you got to constantly switch off the boss, kill and add to get back to the boss.
Exactly, and that's kind of why Wilhelm isn't that great at bossing. Like I'm pretty sure Chimera has basically done like a minute-long kill skill video on all the bosses, on all the characters, except Wilhelm, because it's not possible. He doesn't have any of those cool mechanics that one-shots a boss. He doesn't have Tombstone like Nisha. He doesn't have one last thing for Claptrap.
Aurelia's just all of her buffs, damage buffs.
Exactly.
I just did probably be posting, well, maybe as we record this, or later today, but I did the shock drop 5 rounds with Aurelia. With my deputy Aurelia build, and I was almost one-shotting every single enemy. My only 2 guns was the flare and the Kaneda's laser.
Oh yeah.
And it was just death, like so many just mid-air, like enemies jumping at me, dying in mid-air shots. Just absolutely just crazy how much she can crank up the damage, and I didn't go in a fight for my life once. And that's kind of where I was going to get at Wilhelm. Like, there's a point to that. Like, he's got all these tanking things, but his damage is just lacking compared to all the other characters. Mm-hmm. And I hate to get to, like, the Axton BL2 stuff compared to him. I think it's a little more viable of an argument on TPS.
He's kind of like the Axton argument, except he can't one-shot TDR stuff.
Yeah, like, Axton's got his grenade boosts that can, do crazy things. Like, Wilhelm doesn't have that thing.
Like, Wilhelm is a better example of the Axton argument than Axton is.
Yeah, and Wilhelm is actually fine. Like, he's totally viable. He's fine for the game. It's just
you can,
every other character
to play in the game.
Yeah. Wilhelm will wreck the game. And he doesn't have trouble killing bosses. He has trouble killing bosses really fast like the other characters.
Yeah, it's basically like, he's not a broken character. He's like a balanced character in a sea of broken characters.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, because in the pre-sequel with the softer scaling, all the characters, like Jack with AA and all of his damage boosts is insane and broken. Yeah, constant kill skills. I mean, like, the Deputy Jack, not to go all deputy and everything, but what he can do to a Jacob shotgun is just utterly unfair. And then the flare comes out. Yeah, and then the flare comes out on top of it. You're like, okay, everything's dead. Athena's ability to also fire forever with Elemental Barrage, Unrelenting, Storm
and
Weaving.
And not to mention, constant elemental damage boost to,
an elemental damage boost are huge. Yeah, to, 400% or something crazy. Everyone loved the bones that was 39% or... And, she's like, yeah, I can get 400% elemental damage boost and fire forever with insane fire rate. It's just a wall of bullets with her.
Basically, everyone has some super broken thing, and Wilhelm has,
Nisha, Tombstone. Yeah. And, targeting scope is, an average skill for Aurelia.
Yeah, exactly.
She's got so many insane damage boosts that, targeting scope on her, you're like, yeah, it's kind of weak. But on Wilhelm, you're like, this is the greatest.
This is the greatest. It's amazing, because 50% damage boost is what you're comparing it to.
Yeah. I mean, she's got 20 of those.
Yeah.
So he's a well-balanced character, somewhat flawed, with some bad skill tree design.
Be the tank character, but he doesn't have the tank skills, the good tank skills.
And Athena
has damage ignore, you don't take damage for X seconds and stuff like that.
And no, it's only in that arc, and there's a lot that ignores the arc, slams ignore the arc and other things. So I mean, it's not totally that.
It's not a perfect science, but she's way better at tanking than Wilhelm.
Yeah.
A lot of
yeah. And then Conduit is insane because it's how hard is it for her to put out shock dots and just constantly regen her shield.
Yeah.
Especially at high maelstrom.
Cool stuff.
Yeah, and then Jack can actually probably the best tank in the game.
Yeah, that's by coincidence because he has all those constant popping kill skills.
Yeah. You just pop his Jacks.
Take their freedom.
Yeah, and take their freedom and what's the other one? He's got
health regen.
Yeah, he's got two really good health regen.
He has take their freedom and he has.
I can't think of that. Is it teamwork?
Collaboration, maybe? No,
I think it's teamwork.
Yeah, teamwork, something like
that. Yeah. He's almost unkillable with his Jacks are out. And you can pretty much keep his Jacks out forever. Or not quite forever, but as long as you need to.
Time.
Yeah, a very long time. And he's probably the best tank in the game.
And
but he's also kind of like the best almost everything in the game.
Yeah, yeah.
Jack is a really good character.
Oh, Jack is totally broken.
Yeah, he's amazing.
He's brokenly tanky. He's got broken DPS. He can break.
You can build him literally any way you want, and be accessible. You can. It's
Wilhelm. Yeah, I wish like.
Wilhelm's a little more shoehorned because he has a lot more useless skills or situational skills or niche skills.
He doesn't have that variety to build him a lot of different ways.
He's usually shoehorned into very specific skill points, and because a lot of the time he doesn't have better options, and it's kind of weird with Wilhelm. He does have a lot of like 1-point wonders that he can. That's basically where all your customization comes in, with like which 1-point wonder are you going to be taking, or which collection of 1-point wonders are you going to be taking, and it's not enough considering when you compare to Jack's like literally everything. Athena's amazing DPS and tanking and everything with their storm stacks, and Aurelia's super high crit damage, and Claptrap's a weird character too. Basically, all Claptrap has is one last thing, and that's all he needs.
He just has explosive build, but it's good enough.
Yeah, he has one last thing, and that's all he needs. And all his other skills are kind of weird and annoying and not that good. But he has one last thing that kind of breaks his thing as a character.
Yeah,
Wilhelm doesn't have something like that.
Yeah, he's missing like that big skill.
As I said before, he's like a balanced character in a sea of like random broken abilities.
Yep.
And it kind of has that more pronounced accent effect that you would kind of, even though the argument's not really, it's like a fallacious argument in BL2, you can kind of actually have a legit argument for that in Wilhelm's case.
Yeah, and he still doesn't suck. He just struggles to keep up with the others.
Like, let's just say...
but he's one of the best teammates because of Overcharge.
Yeah. Like, let's say... And laser guided as well.
Yeah.
Let's say, like, just think of the speed kills for everyone else. Everyone else can kill EOS in, like, one shot or, like, 1 minute or something like that. I'm pretty sure Wilhelm's John R has like a Wilhelm speedrun with bar on, and it takes like 6 minutes. It's actually like insane.
Yeah.
Like he's using pitchforks, he's using bada booms, and he's like, it's 6 minutes on a speedrun with bar on. And
those...
Kim can basically pull off all that stuff with like bar off and like just the skills, and it takes a minute. And Wilhelm doesn't really have stuff like that.
Yep. So let's move on to the guns then.
Yep.
Or do you need a break first? Are we good to go?
I'm good.
Okay.
The Wilhelm's general philosophy with guns is you generally want high base damage because you're not boosting damage at a lot of places, and you want to kind of make the most of your DPS, your passive DPS, and stuff like that. General synergies kind of like across the board, high gun damage and stuff like Malawan boosts, like with stuff like the machine and just your Malawan lasers and stuff like that. Anything that has generally high damage for Wilhelm works really well with targeting scope, with escalation, with all your like you overcharge your fire rate buffs and stuff like that. It's kind of sucky in general that Wilhelm's best weapons are kind of like vanilla good DPS weapons on a lot of other characters as well. But if you're gonna, and he doesn't really have like really cool synergies with a lot of guns because he doesn't really have those cool guns.
Yeah, his boosts are fairly neutral.
They're fairly general and kind of work for everything. So basically the best guns for Wilhelm, more or less the best guns for anyone else when you're talking about vanilla DPS. And kind of like he works well with like the company man, he works well with the fast talker, he works well with the thinking, he works well with the player, but so does everyone else.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really have guns that are inherently his.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
Like everyone like Claptrap is like the best flacker user. He also has like specific gun things to abuse OLT, like he can make use out of like a TD or a quad, like a blue TD or a quad because it has 2-shot capacity and do stuff like that. Like he's like the only person who can make use of the nerfed Fragnum, and and because it reloads constantly, it empties its magazine so often that it kind of gets a load and Claptrap does have the load and slow buff, which is another thing that he has.
He's got a handful.
He's got a few
good
cool
explosive buffs to boost all that, but basically it's explosive.
But basically, the point I'm getting at is there aren't necessarily much gear that works really well with Wilhelm specifically. Like Aurelia has like a couple guns that work really well with her. Everyone like Athena has a couple like decent guns that work well with her.
Well, yeah,
Jack
I mean,
has, like,
Athena likes especially shock, but elemental stuff. You know, Aurelia likes cryo and snipers. Claptrap loves explosive.
Any weapon into a good thing.
Yeah.
But Wilhelm just kind of has.
I mean, that's somewhat fitting, though, for the soldier class, because the soldier class should just be fairly neutral on guns. And Maya was kind of like that in Borderlands 2. Like, she had a few chain reaction guns, but other than that, she doesn't have a lot of gun synergies. And I actually somewhat look at that as a bonus sometimes, rather than being shoehorned. You're kind of universal, and you can use whatever.
Yeah. It's just kind of like he's good with the guns that everyone's good with, but it's nothing too exciting for the most part.
Yeah. So
just in general ideas, just high base damage to work with all your fire rate boosts and stuff like targeting scope, which gets boosted really high.
So for assault rifles here, the guns I brought, and they're kind of off the top gear. I have a Hail because the Hail's just fucking good.
One thing I want to note with the Hail is that Afterburner kind of makes it really annoying because it does boost your bullet velocity.
Yeah, so you got to get used to how it shoots differently. But I use the Hail with Maya and Accelerate, and I don't have an issue with it once I adapt to it.
Yeah, and the Hail's just kind of generally good. It's like it's like a generally good gun that kind of like a remnant of BL2 that's still in TPS.
Yeah,
just a good gun.
I kind of make an argument that the Hail is maybe the best overall gun in the series, because you have high fire rate, you have a good magazine size, you have a fairly quick reload, you have a critical hit bonus, a rather large one, you have 80% splash damage, you have a bullet split, so it works well with amp. It just and you have lifesteal. Like, it has everything you want. It comes in all the elements, and the fact that you can have a cryo one.
It comes in everything but non-elemental. Right?
Yeah, it does not come in non-elemental. It has to be elemental. But a slag hail was kind of lame, but a cryo hail is freaking cool.
Yeah, especially with it's a good gun. It's just a good gun. It's just it's kind of basically what Wilhelm breaks down to is he's good with everything that everyone's good with. And the hail's no exception.
And with his fire rate boost on Overcharge and a couple of the other ones, like, it's just a wall of bullets you're shooting out.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's
that's
also
very cool.
He also does general synergies with Vladoff weapons in general, because everything that's a bullet hose doesn't really bullet hose as much because Overcharge is a thing.
Yep. Which is fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
Then I had the Major Tom.
Yep, just kind of it's not really like a flashy gun, it's just kind of your Varuk from BL2.
Yep.
Nothing special. Just kind of decent. It's not like it's better on some bosses than kind of your standard, like your scavs and whatnot, but it's decent enough DPS. It's not like amazing, but if you can get it on a couple bosses and loaders, there aren't really loaders in this game, but something like
it's good on the big Kragans because they're big bodies. You can land them all. It is great on the power suits when they show up. Mm-hmm. I think it's a really good gun on RK5, a corrosive Major Tom on RK5.
Yeah, if you can land all the bullets, it's a good gun. It's just kind of generic.
Yeah.
Nothing real special. But if you can get all your crits on targeting scope, unfortunately the targeting scope doesn't affect the spread. But if you can get all those bullets on target with targeting scope, it does a lot of damage.
Yeah. Next one you had on there was a Gatling gun with the glitch Gatling gun.
Basically, all your triple firing guns, like your miniguns and your Gatlings, the accuracy boost and the critical boost are huge.
Yep. And all Jacobs non-snipers have a Type B crit. Gatling guns, it's only 15%, but that 15% adds up.
Especially
when you're
with
multiplying
escalation.
Other crits. Yep.
And triple bullets and targeting scope giving you 50 to 100 boost in crit just off the bat.
Yep. And you can land all three of these on crit pretty reliably.
Especially with all your accuracy boost from targeting scope and what have you.
And then you add in just that big damage of Jacobs.
And again, that ammo mitigation issue with the miniguns is like 3 ammo per shot. not really an issue, especially with also the glitch weapons in general, because the overload glitch gives you that crit bonus, right? It gives you flat damage and crit bonus. The overload glitch kind of works really well with Wilhelm's kit, and the minigun and the Gatling gun. They both shoot multiple rounds, and they both have no negative fire rate, or no noticeable negative fire rate boost from the overload glitch, which kind of works really, really well with Wilhelm and kind of his skills, because lots of crit, lots of multiplicative crit bonus, and a lot of accuracy, and it works really well kind of in practice with Wilhelm for sure.
So next, lasers.
Yep. Oh, one more thing before we leave kind of the assault rifles. Wilhelm's really cool with a lot of Torg weaponry. He has, in addition to kind of like their bullet speed with stuff like Afterburner, he has a comm, the Howitzer comm, that boost is just a flat boost to explosive damage.
Nice.
And that kind of works well with like your generic Torg weaponry, because it does have your gyro jets with increased bullet speed and
explosive damage boost.
Explosive damage is always nice.
Yep, because that's a multiplicative
boost.
Boost.
Cryo and everything.
Yep.
What I really like using personally with Wilhelm is just a normal Torg rifle, like flat off barrel. Not like a spinner or anything, because that kind of has a really annoying startup time. It's just kind of a nice generic DPS gun that I really like. As far as Torg weaponry goes, it's not too flashy, but it's just a cool gun.
Just gets the job done.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when you can get that kind of fire rate with a Torg gun, boost the explosive damage, and then his overcharged fire rate, just crank it up to 1 billion and win.
And the bullet speed helps a lot too.
Oh yeah. Alright, so on lasers, the first one I have up for good reason, I think, is the Absolute Zero, because with only a 12 meg, it gets a lot out of laser focus.
Yep.
It basically doubles
or triples its mag when depending if it's boosted or not. Because I think you get 24 plus 24 mag at like 11 out of 5 or something like that. And not to mention just super high base damage coupled with the Malawan boost. And that Malawan boost goes for a lot longer with a longer mag, and it's just an amazing gun in general, especially if you can mitigate the ammo.
Well, that's
Wilhelm does it with Wilhelm does it with more of his skills like that.
It's all about breaking the gun. Like, what is the gun bad at, and how can you break it? And this is one of those few guns that he does that with by doubling the mag. Because most people would have magazine buffs, which isn't going to increase a mag of 12 that much. But
yeah, because most of them are percentage increases. But laser focus is flat mag, so that's like tripling the Absolute Zero's mag.
And the Absolute Zero can destroy shit.
And coupled with that, the Absolute Zero has like super high base damage, and also the Malawan bonus, and also couple that with like all the crit bonuses Wilhelm has, and the laser bonus damage increase, especially when boosted. It's not that much. Obviously, it's like 20 or something like that, but like 20 on a bigger number is.
But the thing with beams, that continuous bonus damage is multiplicative.
Yep. Which
makes any additive gun buff really big. So yeah. This is probably the gun he's got maybe the most synergy with.
Yep.
Out of just about anything.
Perhaps the Laser Discer has a contention for that
spot. But, which is the next gun I have to go over here.
Yep. It's your only explosive laser, and it's not made by Torg. So that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
We got our TDR laser. It shoots little discs that does more damage to flying.
Or if you have physics on, just a giant shock ball. Which is weird, because it's not shock, but like, you'll see it when you watch this when it's posted. I don't know if you've ever seen it shoot with physics on. It's actually kind of annoying. I prefer it.
So it's...
Yeah. I actually prefer it with physics off, because it's like this cool Tron-looking thing, but with this on, it kind of just looks like a massive shock ball that takes up the entire screen. It's weird.
Yeah, for sure. It also does that bonus extra. I think it's a multiplicative damage bonus to flying enemies, which is weird, but it works.
Because
it's a good gun.
There's
to shoot,
a lot of them.
But it's an amazing gun to throw, because for Wilhelm especially, we have that plus 24 mag bonus, which is coupled with a huge ass like base damage. So when you're doing your TDR calculations, that flat mag bonus adds a lot more damage.
Oh, hell yeah.
Expect. And it does, like if you toss this gun on Wilhelm, you're basically tossing like a super Holocaust. Especially add the cryo bonus to all of that. It's like you wouldn't think of Wilhelm as a TDR character, but with laser focus, he basically is a TDR character.
Yeah, with lasers.
Yeah, exactly. You toss a laser discer and fight for your life. It's better than most rocket launchers.
Yep.
Because the laser focus gives it so much like extra boost because it's flat mag and not percentage mag, and it's insane. Especially with something like a Terminator class mod, I think that also boosts even like a high tech blaster because that boosts laser focus and gun show too, which also increases your mag a little bit. It's an insane gun with laser focus. It's like it does a lot of damage when thrown and really good
just shooting.
Yeah. It's an amazing gun. Like the Absolute Zero and the laser discer in Claptastic Voyage are like amazing legendaries.
Oh yeah, incredibly well done too.
Yeah, the Claptastic Voyage added like
a lot of interesting good guns.
Yeah, especially when TPS was criticized for super boring legendaries to begin with. Claptastic Voyage adds a lot of cool stuff for sure.
The next one I have here is the Rosie. Ignore the Loonshine, everyone. That's
the Rosie's a weird gun. It's that trap gun when it was first announced, before they nerfed it like super heavily. It was low base damage to begin with a super high continuous damage bonus. Wilhelm's probably the only one who can use it like decently effectively now that it's been thrown into the shitter basically.
Well,
after everyone is using
and it always had the same base damage as regular purple ones. It just the multiplicative continuous bonus went from like 218 up to like 500 and some, and now it's just 368.
Yeah, so that low base damage is a little more noticeable now that they nerfed that continuous base damage by a lot.
But like regular Maliwan beams are still good. It's just still a straight up good increase.
But when you compare them to like just general Maliwan blasters and stuff like that, like they're easier to fire and they don't like jump on you a lot more. That's where kind of gun show and stuff like that come into play, where you want to reduce that recoil and with high points in targeting scope, you get that accuracy. So much less variance in where that beam goes when your accuracy is super high. That's why kind of Wilhelm has a little bit of an easier time handling the Rosie.
Yeah. And I think the only one that might still do it better is Jack, because his legendary comm makes it a Hyperion and makes it point. But other than that, because beams aren't that good with Athena actually, because they have very low dot chance
and super ridiculous recoil and like beams are actually like super impossible to control with Athena in most cases. Yeah, like her fire rate goes so insane that like
they're everywhere.
Really hard to keep a beam on target.
The next one I brought with me is the mining laser.
Okay, this is basically goes into that whole idea of the sniping kind of Wilhelm build. Targeting scope makes those tightens up a little bit, not too much because it obviously has a decently fixed spread for the most part. But it doesn't get that crit bonus. If you get them all on target, it does a lot of damage. It kind of works into that whole first to fight kind of sniping build, even though it's really hard to hit all your beams on target. It is just a kind of good freezing gun in general if you're going to use it as like a cryo utility. It's one of his less interesting guns, but it definitely makes a lot of use out of escalation and targeting scope combination, because if you do hit the crits with it, it does a lot of damage.
One other nice thing is its fire rate is 1, which is super slow, so it gets a lot out of your fire rate buffs, which he has a lot of.
He has a lot of them, but obviously when you're boosting a 1 fire rate, it's like a little annoying. Another thing is, I think it uses 7 ammo per shot.
It does.
Something like that. And overcharge definitely helps a lot with that too. If you're going to be using the mining.
But with its fire rate, even though it's 7 per shot and it seems totally bad, with a fire rate of 1 and a pretty high base damage with 3 pellets, it doesn't actually consume that much ammo in combat. But overcharge helps that. But mainly this gun loves anything that can kick up its fire rate, because that's its main drawback.
And also, like, it makes his stuff like targeting scope and escalation makes that damage per shot like super good.
Is there any other lasers you want to bring up before we move on?
just kind of in general, Malawan lasers. You can have your dichotomized splitters and your accelerated blasters, your Malawan splitters and blasters. That they don't have the Malawan splitters in particular. They got that continuous damage bonus. It's not as big as like your kind of your Malawan beams and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And you only have your 3 projectiles, unlike the TDR stuff.
Yep.
But your dichotomized splitters are kind of your best kind of vanilla lasers for the most part, because you do benefit from the accuracy tightening, the projectile, not the projectile stuff, but the targeting scope accuracy increases, and getting all your shots on target, and more multiplicative damages with all your crits, and your escalation targeting scope bonus. The TDR splitters are decent enough on Wilhelm, just not as good as the Malawan splitters, in my opinion.
All right, that's fair enough. You can probably hit more crits. And,
yeah, exactly. Wilhelm can wrap up the damage with all the multiplicative bonuses with
all of his additive ones stacking up.
Yep, exactly. And just kind of your Malawan lasers in general. Most Malawan lasers just kind of benefit well from Wilhelm because he needs as much damage as he can get, and when you have that Malawan ramp bonus, you get a lot from it there with that multiplicative boost.
Okay. On pistols, let's see. The first one I have up on the top slot is the Taser. More so a utility gun just in general, because it has that really high dot chance for a freeze gun. It's also just a really good gun in general, just because I don't know. It's a cool gun. It's not one of the flashier options that Wilhelm can have because it's generally considered a low damage gun. Yeah, it's got low base damage, but it's got crazy fire rate. It's a Hyperion, so you stick it on. And it also has the Hyperion barrel type B critical hit, and it's really easy to hit fire crits with these.
It's the one thing that it's mainly a utility gun on Wilhelm in particular, because he doesn't ramp up the damage too much.
Yeah.
He ramps up all the DPS stuff, which is like, it's nice to have, but it's already kind of one of those fast, low damage, high fire rate weapons to begin with. So it doesn't really benefit too much from that, but it's a cool gun to have, especially as a freezing tool. It's one of your most efficient freezing tools if you run like a redundant a taser with cryo. It's one of your better cryo weapons, as far as I remember.
Oh yeah, definitely. Its cryo chance is crazy high,
especially when you like double up the pistol ammo.
Yeah,
it's a cool gun for sure. But it's not necessarily abused as much in Wilhelm as you would expect on somebody else. For instance,
yeah, the number one on the top gear was the Gunnerang, or the Shooterang in this game. Shooterang in this game.
It's weird. The Shooterang in BL2 is mainly a throwing weapon, from my experience with Axton usually. But in this game, it's just a really decent vanilla DPS pistol.
So I'm actually going to argue that a little bit. When I was doing my The Good, the Bad, the Ugly for Borderlands 2, and when I brought the Gunnerang into Lynchwood with Maya, it performed really good just shooting. I had a really hard time landing the shots, but I think it's in that vein where people just didn't really try it for that very much, but it was underrated for that.
It's notorious for being that Axton kind of boss rating pistol thing.
Yeah.
But it's actually like a really good vanilla DPS pistol.
Yeah.
And like even BL2 with the Gunnerang, TPS is more so. I think with the Super Shooterang, you get roughly like 20,000 base damage, which is like really high for something with that decent enough fire rate.
20,934.
Yeah, and when Wilhelm ramps up that fire rate, and it already has a good reload speed because it's a TDR, and it has a really good fire, just base damage in general, and Wilhelm basically ramps all the other things but that base damage to make it into like kind of this bullet hose of a gun that is decently easy to hit with all its accuracy and bullet speed buffs, and it's like it's one of those guns that nobody really brings up as like really good vanilla DPS gun, and Wilhelm definitely ramps it up to 11.
One thing I'm going to note on it is definitely ADS with this thing, because its hip fire is a little bit wild.
Yeah, its hip fire is a little bit insane. It's a little bit better with the targeting
accuracy
and stuff like
buffs,
that.
But yeah,
it's definitely better for ADSing than just hip firing.
The other one on the list was another one was the Bowfly.
Yeah, just kind of it's what the dull pistols are kind of your general high damage weapons. The blowfly obviously kind of reminiscent of the Hornet, not quite as good as I remember, especially with corrosive being kind of dimmed in DPS. It's good for EOS, it's good for stuff like that. The blowfly being kind of, I don't think it's an exact remake of the Hornet. I'm not too sure.
It's a little bit different, but it's pretty
bit different,
close.
But it's more or less the same to the Hornet.
Yep.
To where you'd use it as a gun versus like corrosive bosses like RK5 or EOS or something like that. Just dull weapons in general are generally pretty high damage, especially if you have like the overload glitch with just the generic dull repeaters and stuff like that, which when you're in burst fire mode with dull guns, you ignore the fire rate drop from the overload glitch. So basically any gun that abuses the overload glitch, like your generic dull pistols and your Jacob's pistols and stuff like that, work really well with Wilhelm's skills in general, because that extra huge damage boost without cutting your fire rate is much appreciated for Wilhelm's skills, which are generally low damage but high crit and DPS, stuff like that. And guns like the blowfly definitely shine a little bit. But more so just generic dull pistols and stuff.
So with that, I actually brought one that wasn't on the Top Gear list because I wanted to ask about it. The Gwen's Head. Because the Gwen's Head, it's a very high DPS pistol, but it is a bullet hose because it always comes with the ×2 prefix.
Yeah, and you more or less wasting that bullet because of how you aim it. Like that bullet goes like far off and to the right and does nothing basically.
But this does have the Type B crit, and I think this one's like a 37.5 or something really high.
Yeah, it's really good with actually, like when I was revising the Wilhelm Top Gear, it's not quite on there yet, but just because the forums are kind of iffy at the time being, but Gwen's Head is definitely up there. I think we did try it, if I remember, but I think even with overcharge, that bullet hose capability is really hard to keep on target. Like you will run out of ammo with it.
Okay, it still does. That was my question because
it lasts for longer than it would with basically anyone else.
Yeah,
and it does do a lot of DPS with targeting scope, because obviously like 37.5 plus escalation plus like 100% targeting scope and all of that is a lot of extra crit.
Yeah,
but you
can
are
land
basically
those.
wasting one of those bullets every time, and
that's kind of sad.
Yeah.
Okay,
but
fair enough.
It's definitely usable. It's probably in the same ballpark as your overload repeaters and stuff like that. That do also use 2 ammo per shot, if I remember correctly. But obviously both of those shots go on target and do a lot more damage. But yeah, it's definitely good. It's just maybe not quite. Like Wilhelm can make it usable, but if you're going to be using it, you basically want to use it as your only pistol. And you are going to sink some money into it to sustain it, but you definitely can get through like a map with the Gwen's Head with Wilhelm, but it is notorious for being a bullet hose.
Oh yeah, it is a major bullet hose, but it is an effective bullet hose. So then Jacob's pistols, is he a big fan of those?
I think
I didn't see them on the Top Gear list at all. Like I don't even think the Maggie or was the Maggie on there?
The Maggie wasn't on there, but it's when I tried it out in a lot of my testing, it's very comparable to like your dull repeaters and stuff like that.
Okay.
It's I don't know why it doesn't work as well as you'd expect it to. It makes sense, like Jacob's crit and all that stuff to boost
and
all
high base damage and
targeting scope. Like in theory it works better, but it should be like a really good gun, but
maybe it's because they don't get they don't really get anything out of fire rate bonuses, and he's got a lot of those, so you lose that.
Maybe it's that. I think they're fine. You can definitely use them. I just you don't get as much out of them as like say Jacob's shotguns would get out of them, because they make more use out of the accuracy bonus. Maybe the pepper box might be an interesting one to try with Wilhelm.
Okay.
Because he gets more use out of the super ammo inefficient stuff with the pepper box and stuff like that. Like maybe like a glitched overload pepper box might be decent enough with the Wilhelm. I don't think I've tried it extensively, but that's probably the most viable one I think of. if you're talking about Jacob's pistols, the Maggie was surprisingly average when I tried it with Wilhelm.
It doesn't shock me a lot that a lot of his DPS buffs are through fire rate, and they don't get anything out of it, and he doesn't crank the damage up that much.
Yeah.
So shotguns next?
Yep.
Alright, so I'm just going to start with the flare. The flare is good on Wilhelm because it's the flare.
Yeah, it's the flare. The extra crit, extra accuracy, just bonuses, but the flare is just a good gun on everybody. And Wilhelm just happens to also be good with it because the flare is a flare.
Okay.
Yeah.
Next one I had is the Moonface.
Yeah, Moonface is really surprisingly good on Wilhelm. I don't know why. He's just it's an anomaly. Obviously, it's a Jacob's gun with a lot of potential damage with explosive splash and kind of your it does a lot of work with targeting scope and a lot of work with afterburner because the bullet speed makes that smiley face spread like more accurate at most of the time. It doesn't spread out into the smiley face as often as you would expect it to.
Okay.
And you usually it's something that I'd really recommend trying out. You kind of have to see it to believe it.
I was gonna say, it doesn't make a lot of sense because it's hard to crit with it because of the wave, and then
it ends up being a lot more easy to crit with when you have something like a Celestial on him, like a Celestial Enforcer.
Yeah.
That boosts afterburner and targeting scope and all that. When it all culminates into like a gun that's surprisingly really, really good on Wilhelm specifically, that's like, it's weird. It's very weird. It just works. And I have no idea why. It's just an anomaly, but it's like I've had the most success with the Moonface by far.
Huh. Interesting.
Obviously before the flare, but like it was his best shotgun until the flare showed up. I don't know why. It also works with the howitzer because explosive damage and targeting scope.
Yep.
And
that would make sense
weird.
On that for
it's
sure.
Very weird.
Next one I have is the Torgmata. Again, it's kind of good on everyone.
Generic ammo efficient gun. Accuracy doesn't do too much for it, but it's just it's a generic ammo efficient gun. The spread's fixed at 100% splash damage. It's a good gun all around, but Wilhelm just does decent with Torg weapons in general because it's bullet speed and
fire rate.
Torg
shotguns love fire rate boosts because they're so damn slow, but he's also got a lot of reload buffs, and Torg shotguns reload pretty slow.
Interesting enough, Torgmata is kind of like the only Torg shotgun that doesn't really care that much about stuff like that because it does have a really deep mag with only 1 ammo per shot.
Yeah.
But it's just a generically good gun. You want to aim at the ground with it most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you can manage to hit like crits on it, it's decent. But you usually want to be aiming the ground to hit that flak and all that too.
Yep.
Just a good ammo efficient gun. Good on everyone.
The mini flacker, as we call it.
Yep.
Which sometimes it can be a lot better. Last shotgun I brought was the Company Man.
Yep. Just basically back in the wheelhouse of the thinking of the Company Man are your kind of generic vanilla DPS guns. They're bullet hoses, Hyperion shotguns that are generally considered bullet hoses. Wilhelm mitigates that quite a bit with overcharge. They're kind of generic. They're pretty good. They're like serviceable on everyone. The Bullpup, before it was patched out to be like not level 70.
Yeah.
That was probably the best Hyperion shotgun, but considering you can't necessarily get it.
Company Man and the Bullpup are pretty close though.
I think the Company Man is closer to a Thinking than it is to a Bullpup. It's like a Thinking with a 30 round mag.
Yeah.
And the Bullpup is like a higher damage Thinking with some other bonuses to it too as well. If I remember correctly, the Bullpup is like.
I remember the Bullpup was, I think, slightly better, but they're really close when I was comparing
really
them side by side.
Sure. But they're Hyperion shotguns, just general vanilla DPS weapons.
Yeah.
Good, serviceable on basically everyone. Hyperion shotguns really amazing on Athena, of course, with their stacking and whatnot, but they're fine on everyone else as well.
Any other shotguns you want to bring up with him?
Other than just your generic Torgs.
Ravagers.
Bring up the generic Torgs again. Your Ravagers are good at basically everyone. Really good on Wilhelm, especially with the howitzer. Bullet speed, accuracy, reload speed, fire rate. Torg likes all of that.
Yep. All right. Next we have SMGs, which...
Hello?
Yeah, you still there?
Yep.
Alright, thought you lost me again. Alright, so SMGs are next. We have... He doesn't... Does he have really great synergy with SMGs? Didn't seem like it to me.
All but one. Not really, unless you count the meat grinder. The meat grinder is a cool gun. A really cool gun. It's a bullet hose that's super inaccurate. It was basically forgotten by most of the community as like it is like the bone shredder basically. Right?
Yeah.
But we brought it up again. We revisited it with Jack and Wilhelm and a couple other characters that are super accuracy focused, and it's really cool when you can boost that accuracy by a lot.
Yep.
It's just a bullet hose. It's just a lot of damage when you release all those bullets at once. Overcharge negates that bullet hose capability a little bit. Jack, obviously, yeah, forget about it. But super, when you combine the bone shredder with super high accuracy, it actually becomes like a really efficient killing machine. Not efficient, but like high DPS killing machine.
Yeah.
And obviously, like you have your old standbys of the Torrent, which is just a strangely high damage SMG.
Yeah,
that has a lot of DPS. Good on everyone, maybe except Athena. But even with Athena, it's still.
Oh, Athena loves the Torrent. Holy crap, she loves it. It's insane fire rate, damage. You stack like crazy with it. I don't think it's been confirmed, but we think it's got penetration.
I think it might. I don't remember.
Penetration is a hard thing to test, but we're pretty sure it has penetration because it stacks way faster than it should. Yep. But even hip firing with her shield, because it doesn't really have recoil, it's got kind of a spread to it, but she can play close anyways. And this isn't about Athena.
yeah.
It's just a crazy good SMG.
Goes insane when you aim at it, when you aim down the sights with it.
Yeah.
And I think it also has that weird capability of its sight is like the generic no sight, so it doesn't actually have like that really fast like aim down speed time that other non-sighted things would have. So it actually like goes into ADS really way quicker than other non-scoped SMGs, if I remember correctly.
And when you ADS, it's super easy to crit because it's got very low recoil and incredible tight spread.
Very low recoil,
it's
super
just
high
really
fire
good.
Rate. It's just a DPS bullet hose and does a lot. It has a really high base damage to accompany with it.
Yep. Then we have the Fast Talker, which Wilhelm can turn into the Flash Talker.
Yeah, it's as I mentioned before, your generic DPS weapons, good on everyone. Decent on Wilhelm as well.
Yeah. The big thing with this is overcharge can help the ammo mitigation that the Fast Talker can burn through.
It definitely helps with your bullet hoses. Nothing too special other than just it also helps out with the ammo mitigation, but it's just a generic kind of super decent DPS weapon because of that huge 16 off the top fire rate. Oh, with Wilhelm's fire rate boost, you can get that to 30 plus really easily.
Yeah,
and it becomes like a super duper bullet hose. Yeah, even on PC, fire rate caps are kind of annoying.
Yeah, with a gun like that, usually you don't run into them too often, but with that you do.
Yeah.
Then you have the IVF.
Yep, IVF. It's not too special. It's kind of decent with everyone.
Yeah.
Just because the IVF is kind of your boss SMG. You just kind of keep throwing them at bosses and deal decent enough DPS. Yeah, exactly. It's nothing really too special to say about the IVF. Wilhelm doesn't really have synergy with it, unlike like stuff like the laser discer. But it's the IVF. You
win with it.
Throwing it until you win.
Yep. I'm trying to think if there's any other SMGs that would be particularly great with him, but I'm not. He just doesn't seem to fit with them because they're already really fast. He doesn't boost the damage too much. They already have good reloads, so they don't get as much out of his boosts.
Outside of the meat grinder, there isn't really any synergistic SMG with Wilhelm, but that's basically how it goes.
All right, so next is unless you have anything else on them.
Nope, just try the meat grinder on Wilhelm. It's fun.
All right. And he can get close enough because he's tanky enough to kind of get near it. Snipers. I have the Skull Masher, which obviously I think he's going to be pretty good with because he's going to tighten that spread up a little bit. Skull Masher likes anything with an accuracy boost.
Yep. Targeting scope and a lot of other skills give you a lot of accuracy, especially with that bullet speed off Afterburner. Doesn't spread as easily.
Yep.
It's pretty straightforward. Jacob's snipers in general, like the Skull Masher and the Muck-a-Muck.
Yep, high crit, high base damage, and
high crit, high base damage. Always appreciate more Type B and Type A crit from targeting scope.
Yeah, they love that Type B crit. In case you guys were watching, don't know, most snipers come with 100% critical hit damage. Jacob's are 160, so they're going to get more out of that Type B than the other snipers.
Yep. Jacob snipers are all pretty decent with Wilhelm, especially with escalation.
Yep. Next I have is the Pitchfork, which is kind of a boss basher, but the problem with the Pitchfork is it burns through ammo like no tomorrow, and you have a small ammo pool, but Overcharge helps that.
A little bit. Basically, you only use the Pitchfork for EOS or RAM Comjet 5. You use it on EOS or something just to get a lot of crits on really quickly. That's basically all you use it for.
What about just to take off deadlift in no time at all?
Yeah, it's just decent. It's a really good gun for killing bosses really quickly. Well, that's basically true for basically everyone, but it's just
Wilhelm can shoot it a little bit longer.
Yeah,
some character like Nisha, I don't even think she can use it on bosses because she'll run out of ammo before she kills anything.
Depends. Sometimes the boss dies quick enough that you only need the one clip and they're dead.
Yep. Next I have the Omni Cannon with him.
I was probably going to remove that just because the Omni Cannon is super bugged. Just in general as a weapon, because I haven't mentioned before, it's an old Hyperion gun.
Which means there's no old Hyperion materials, no matching grip bonus.
Yeah,
or not
no matching
material.
grip bonus, no matching barrel bonus. It loses a lot of damage and a lot of your fun bonus stats that you would get from matching your weapons.
Yep.
I don't know if this is a glitch or this was intended, but it doesn't...
I think it's an oversight.
Yeah.
I think they just forgot about it, to be honest.
Yeah, the old Hyperion stuff doesn't get their matching bonuses for anything, and this is a Hyperion barreled old Hyperion gun.
Yep.
So normally your Hyperion barrel is probably your worst sniper barrel for the most part. Yep. And then you couple the fact with it's not even getting the Hyperion bonus for matching the barrel with the gun, and it's...
The one thing I will say with it with Wilhelm, the big drawback of this gun, besides what you just said, is its fire rate, and Wilhelm does a lot for its fire rate.
Yeah, basically what I like the Omni Cannon for is using it as like a kind of a high-powered assault rifle in a way, where it's like you use it to hip fire and you just kind of you get really accurate hip fire shots with the Omni Cannon. It's not like the most amazing gun to like play with, but it is fun. Like as a hip fire kind of decent fire rate gun. Obviously, it's a really slow sniper. It doesn't really do that much DPS, but it's fun to play with, especially with mobbing. Especially with something like a howitzer.
So the next one I brought wasn't on your Top Gear list, but I wanted to talk about it, is the Wet Week.
Is it the Wet Week? Yeah,
yep.
The Wet Week.
Okay.
It's good gun. It's a very good sniper on everyone, but Wilhelm also boosts that up a little bit. Doll snipers usually are kind of ammo inefficient for the most part, but Wilhelm mitigates that. That's basically makes Wilhelm a pretty good sniper is the overcharge buff. Giving you the kind of sustained ammo pool that you can kind of use a sniper for a whole mobbing map without buying ammo. Wet Week is just a really good weapon in general.
Also, one of its drawbacks is slow bullet speed, and he helps mitigate that a little bit.
Yeah, especially with Afterburner, and his most general comm is kind of like his overall comm is usually the Celestial Enforcer, and that gives a boost to Afterburner even more so. So.
And this, like you said earlier, he likes high base damage, and the Wet Week has very high base damage and is elemental.
Yeah, for sure.
You had a couple of glitch ones on there as well. A glitch Snyder and a glitch Muck-a-Muck.
Yep, basically all reinforcing red glitches are really good with Wilhelm because they give you base damage and they give you crit, and that does a lot of work with overload glitches. Of course, like the Droog and stuff, just kind of is your Droog is your kind of vanilla DPS sniper, and Wilhelm can kind of sustain that a lot longer with overcharge, and not to mention like your occasional loop glitch also makes the Droog like super high, super sustainable even in mobbing in some senses. And yeah, the Droog is just a super high DPS gun in general, and Wilhelm can actually like use it kind of effectively just because he also can sustain the mag for a little bit longer. And the Snyder is just a kind of generically good sniper that works well with basically everyone. And yeah, he gets a lot out of it too with the overload glitch. High base damage works really well with Wilhelm's kit, and he can kind of turn some slow snipers into decently fast snipers and kind of make them effective killing machines, especially with stuff like Burst to Fight and just kind of maintaining their ammo with overcharge.
Okay. Next we have launchers. So first one up I have is my new favorite gun in the pre-sequel, Kaneda's laser.
Tetsuo. Yep. Yeah, it's amazing. Let's just ignore the fact that it's a launcher that can crit. Just ignore that fact. It's a launcher that can crit. It's amazing.
Yep.
Aside from that, it's a high damage launcher with like a
very high damage.
And consumes 1 ammo per shot, right?
Yeah.
2 ammo, 1 ammo.
Yeah,
it consumes
it's
1 ammo per shot.
Yeah, 1 ammo per shot, 7 in the mag, very high base damage.
Very quick reload because it's a TDR, and it's just amazing. Now, say it can also crit.
Well, I mean, I guess the base damage for launcher is kind of low, but it's still high because it's a launcher.
Yeah, it's high just because it's a launcher in general. Of course, it's like low in comparison.
And it's super accurate too. And then with Wilhelm, it's even more accurate.
Yeah, Wilhelm tightens those crosshairs to like insane amounts of levels. I'm pretty sure it basically looks like a pistol. A pistol crosshair when it like tightens up that much with
yeah, because it's got 94.8 already, so you're pretty much getting it to max accuracy pretty easily.
And now combine that with the fact that it can crit, and now you have targeting scope and escalation on top of that on the Kaneda's laser. Like,
and it shoots pretty fast, but it'll definitely appreciate that bullet speed to hit even faster.
Yeah, exactly. It's an amazing launcher, and it works really, really well.
Does overcharge work with rocket launchers?
No, it does
not.
I think
that's kind of sad.
It specifies bullet regeneration.
Yep.
But on top of that, the Kaneda's laser is probably the most ammo-efficient rocket launcher out there.
I would
Badaboom, maybe?
Yeah, Badaboom might compete with it, but yeah. Very ammo-efficient, very powerful, and it gets a lot out of the crit bonuses.
Yeah.
The other ones
launchers are kind of generic, decently good launchers.
Badaboom's good on everyone. The Nukum's good on everyone.
The Derp kind of is a little bit better because of afterburner and bullet speed, because those rockets are really slow, but they're really powerful. But other than that, fairly generic on the most part. Launchers, none too exciting.
Yeah, not many characters in the pre-sequel have a whole lot of launcher synergy. Or
other than anybody outside of like maybe Nisha, just because Nisha plus
Tombstone.
launchers plus Tombstone.
Yeah, but that's like every launcher is good because Tombstone.
Yeah, and the Barragan is basically the same as the Badaboom, just slightly different, basically.
Next up, the ammo's gonna drive me nuts. Shields.
Yeah, shields are interesting with Wilhelm, just because he has 2 ways you can go about it depending on what skills you're taking. Like, you can either like aim to break your shield very often and focus a lot on max health, like your adaptives and whatnot, or your Rio, or your like work or whatever have you. But he also has a lot of different kind of synergies with shield capacity as well. It just kind of depends on how you want to build it, and you can either go max health or max shield capacity, or even with the heat sinks build, you can go like a little bit into your recharge delay too. It's kind of interesting with that. But let's talk about some shields, I guess.
Yeah.
The first
I've got the Haymaker equipped.
Yeah.
And I've also got the Rio Genitor with me, which are both your adaptives for health stacking, and he likes to health stack. Yeah,
Wilhelm has a lot of health stacking skills. A lot of his regen is max health based. the Rio is interesting in the fact that it kind of helps out with your shield breaking skills a little bit too. It's just he works really well with max health. I would probably go with an adaptive or a haymaker over the Rio in most cases, just because the regeneration is nice, but it's not really like
I
noticeable.
found that too, even with other characters, that when I was trying these, either a purple or the haymaker generally just did a little better than the Rio.
Yeah.
Because the shield capacity was so much more.
Mm-hmm. The haymaker also has a random gimmick that you can punch dots to people.
Yep.
Like you're not going to use it for that, because the bigger thing is the fact that I think it gives the most maximum health out of all the adaptives.
The Rio gives more.
Oh, out of compared to
the non-Rio. Yeah. Outside of the Rio, it gives a second. Yeah. Yep.
Just normal adaptives and haymakers. Like, you want max health, because a lot of his builds kind of focused around max health.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
The next one I have is the Bulwark, because laser damage.
Yeah, laser damage and laser ammo and all that fun stuff. It's a good shield on basically everyone, because it's one of the only shields that gives you flat gun damage.
Yep.
Yeah.
And besides that, it's just a solid shield. It's almost like the antagonist of this game, where it's a shield that's got really cool abilities and really good shield stats. I mean, 53,000 is good capacity. 2.08 is a good delay, or a decent enough delay. Usually you can mitigate that a little bit. And then between the absorb chance of lasers, and there's a lot of lasers in this game, the laser damage resistance, and the laser damage. It's just a great all-around shield.
Also, like, artificially increases the capacity too. It's just it's a good shield without the laser damage, and it also boosts laser damage.
Yep. Yeah. And then the other shield I have here is the Shield of Ages.
Yep. High capacity works well with stuff like the Energizer, that restores flat capacity occasionally.
Yep. Now this you would probably want to be in a heatsink build with, right?
Yeah. Either a heatsink build or something like Energize, heavy stack into Energize, so Sync can restore the shield without having it to naturally regen.
Yeah, because the problem with the Shield of Ages is it's got that long ass delay on it.
Yep. It's basically your best turtle shield that you would have in this game. It doesn't really have the huge ass downside that most turtle shields have.
Yep. But most turtle shields you can get a delay a lot shorter. The Shield of Ages has got the worst delay out of turtle shield, so you've got to be able to mitigate the delay. Yep.
Yeah. But it also has like much higher capacity than most turtle shields anyway.
Yeah, and Wilhelm's got a few different ways to mitigate that between Energizer and Heatsink.
Yeah, Energizer will basically recharge your shield like the gauge laser shield, like the gauge shield thing, like
whatever that death trap thing is. Yeah.
Just restores your shield flat out occasionally based on your capacity, and Shield of Ages has the highest capacity. So if you have Energizer, you can basically restore huge chunks of shield health, and that's obviously good.
Yep. Is there any other shields really to cover?
I think
maybe
more
just
or less good.
Would there be use cases for just regular TDR shields for kind of that shield breaking, or are you better off with a Rio for that?
I think Wilhelm becomes way too not tanky, like way too squishy when you use a TDR shield.
Okay.
There's a couple things that, like, for one, obviously emergency response has that 15-second duration where you don't need to constantly be breaking your shield to get the benefit from it. Obviously you can have something like that, but your shield, like normal shields, will break frequent enough where you can keep that 15-second duration more or less up all the time.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's right. Okay.
And they become really, really squishy with something like a TDR shield.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't recommend it, but it's an option, I guess, if you really like TDR shields.
No, you're probably right.
I'd probably go with like a Rio if you wanted to kind of have a TDR like shield.
Yeah.
If you wanted a TDR shield.
But yeah, I keep forgetting that 15-second duration on that.
Yeah.
I'm always thinking about, you want it to break. I'm like, oh, not really.
Yeah, exactly.
Then grenades.
Nothing really special as far as grenades go.
I've got the Quasar on the Stormfront because
they're just generically good grenades.
Yeah. Now, like you said, if you do want to do a Cold War thing, you definitely want to go with the Stormfront. It's going to be about the only thing to really make Cold War kind of work.
Yep. If anything special to Wilhelm specifically, something like the Leech or the Transfusion, just gives you even more regen to go with your like pseudo health tanking build.
Yeah.
Data Scrubber is really hard to throw, but it kind of works with like a Shield of Ages build in a way. Gives you a little bit more shield transfusion, but it's also a magic grenade if you want to keep if you really get that Data Scrubber arc down and kind of aim it decently enough, it becomes kind of interesting. But yeah, transfusions are pretty decent for the most part. If you like the Kiss of Death, the transfusions.
Yeah, Kiss of Death, or just a regular
the normal
cryo transfusion. Just a regular cryo transfusion might be my favorite grenade in the game.
Yeah.
Outside of maybe like the Stormfront abuse and stuff like that, because it's just so good.
I think
you freeze enemies, you heal.
Yeah, I think my go-to grenade is the Cryo Cloud.
Okay. Yeah, and I have that one equipped because that was on the top gear.
Yeah, you just throw it down. You get huge cryo area, and you can rocket punch some people.
Yep.
if you want to, but yeah, it's just a super effective grenade that kind of stalls people on the track. Yeah.
I've also, I don't know if this is Wilhelm, but I found the Nasty Surprise Cryo works pretty well in this game as well.
Yeah, I think, the Nasty Surprise is kind of a really decent cryo weapon because you just throw it and forget about it. You don't even have to aim it. Throw it and it'll drop to the...
And it's got a pretty big spread. It's got a good chance of freezing multiple people.
Yeah. I think I used the most out of the Nasty Surprise with kind of, I think, Jack, because you need the Hyperion weapon.
Yep.
And it's probably the best Hyperion cryo grenade. It's it's really good in cryo. It's not really good for anything else, but in cryo specifically, it becomes
pretty
kind of
solid.
like you don't even have to aim, just throw it. Something will freeze somewhere on the map and
you'll kill it.
Yeah, exactly.
So good for grenades?
Yeah.
All right. The Eddie. Oh, sorry, Oz kits.
Yeah, Oz kits is the Eddie.
Yeah.
The Eddie is your kind of
go-to Oz kit.
Yeah, you use it because it does so much, and it's so much better than almost every Oz kit except maybe like the Moonlight Saga for Claptrap. Maybe.
There's cases where you want other ones, but between the extra shield capacity, how it restores your shield and health, the ammo it drops is health packs,
shock tasers and laser damage and
the laser damage is the big deal here because we said Wilhelm can use that stuff. So when you stack this in the bulwark,
especially with Wilhelm having very little damage inside of his trees, more damage.
He really
outside.
likes these two.
Exactly.
But tranquilities are just good for flat gun damage if you're not doing lasers.
Yep.
Bombers are always awesome because free grenade chance is sweet and grenade damage. So you were mentioning a lot of like explosive builds with him. That grenade damage will boost your splash as well.
Yeah. Also the dualities. There's like 5 dualities that work in combination with the bomber as well. Like if you use like dualities for the explosive damage, there's explosive damage dualities and cryo damage dualities and stuff like that. They only work half the time because, of course, like they offer dumb stats like flat damage and flat nature and stuff like that when they're not using the elemental boost.
Yeah.
But like half the time they're really good with the elemental boost, and the other half the time they're garbage. But the dualities are cool.
I'll be going over a duality rant pretty shortly. My good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah, but the dualities are really, really cool with half the time.
Yeah.
Because they're bones half the time. Like half the time they're bones, half the time they're something else that aren't really good. Yeah.
You also had the systems purge on your list.
Yeah. It's not like it's good in atmosphere as just kind of passive damage. The damage isn't too high, but it's just passive DPS that you don't have to worry about.
It's got a little bit of a blowback too, which kind of knocks enemies back a little bit, which is nice. I like. Gives you a little bit of crowd control.
It's like it's just something you use in atmosphere when you're not using a laser. Just passive DPS. It's It's not, the damage isn't high, but it's constant DPS that you don't have to worry about. In Atmosphere, you might want to use like a duality or something like that, because or something else.
And there's a lot of times too where you shoot that enemy and you're just shy of that one shot, and the System's Purge finishes
And the
them
System
off.
Purge kind of like puts it over the edge to maybe get those one shots, or maybe do one bullet less than usual.
Yeah.
Just because it's that passive damage that doesn't go away in Atmosphere.
Any other Oz kits?
Nope. Oz kits are fairly equivalent across the board. It's not like he has any synergies with anyone specifically.
Yep.
You could say like, oh my god, the cathartic Meteor Slam synergy, but no.
Alright, then for the big one. Ready for class mods?
Yeah, okay. Class mods
This is the fun part. Alright.
You might want to go over the stats because I don't remember all of them.
Oh, I will.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start with the legendaries first, and if you have an order of the other ones, we can do that.
Yep.
So let's start off with the Celestial Enforcer. So this one's got a plus shield capacity of 19,428, 35% gun damage, which on Wilhelm is a great boost. Its passive boost is increased movement speed by 10% while Wolf and Sane are active. I think that's very helpful.
Yep.
Especially because they're out there for a long time.
Yeah, especially with your common builds, they're just hopping from enemy to enemy, keeping that duration up for basically a whole mobbing map.
He's got a few other movement speed buffs, 2 other ones, right?
Yeah, the rapid reinforcement is one,
and overcharge.
Overcharge being the other one.
So the skills are Afterburner, Fire Support, Man in the Machine, Targeting Scope, Energize, and Auxiliary Tank, which is all pretty solid. It's kind of weird.
Basically,
a lot of them go across the top, but this one you go up and down and skip one side, but it kind of works for the better.
Yeah, the big ones here, you get +5 targeting scope with gun damage on the same comm. Like, it's great. It's great. Afterburner, always nice. You get the reload speed and you get reload speed and bullet speed a little bit.
And like we said, that boosted 50% reload speed is very sexy in Tier 1.
Fire support, but just more damage, I'm pretty sure.
Yep. But that'll get up to 30% gun damage, and with the comm, now you're at 65. That's solid.
Yeah, like that's a boost that's basically nowhere else in his kit. That's like basically almost all of his skill damage. Like, all of his gun damage combined from his tree. You get that again with the Celestial Enforcer. Targeting scope is huge. Plus 50% crit on kill skill is fantastic.
Pretty huge.
Auxiliary
and 50%
tanks
accuracy is nothing to. That's good.
Auxiliary tanks is nice because you get that boosted duration in flat seconds. Energize is always nice too, just because if you do want to run a shield capacity, it gives you even more synergy because it gives you shield capacity, and Energize synergizes more shield capacity. So it gives you flat shield capacity, and Energize also boosts that even more with passive shield regime, basically capacity. This is by and large his best comm.
They make great choices with it.
The only bad thing is Mana Machine, which is you put a point in it for 1 point wonder usually instead of Power Fist if you're going to be using going down that skill tree. You take after you take all 5 points in it if you're not going to be using a laser, or you put 5 in laser focus, 5 in targeting scope, and then 1 in Mana Machine to get your other skills. But yeah, it's Mana Machine is.
But if you are shield stacking. Plus the capacity on here, you can get some, like, if you're doing a Shield of Ages build, this will definitely get it pretty big. So for being the bad skill on it, it's not too terrible. Yeah,
it's a good skill to be the bad skill, and considering all the other skills it gets, it's amazing. Like, there's not one thing on the skill that's bad. Like, legit just bad.
And the passive boost is really good. The gun damage, the shield capacity. It's all good.
It's all around his best comm. You can basically slap this on any build, and it's a good build. Just because it works with basically anything. It's all around and just a really good comm.
The Iridian Vanquisher. I haven't yet to like one of these. So, elemental effect chance, air control, max health, which is outside the formula, so percentage boosts don't affect it. Then you get fire support and suppression, first to the fight and Man in the Machine, and heat sink.
No.
Yeah.
It's the passive boosts are way worse. The passive boosts are way worse.
Yeah.
And First to Fight is situationally decent. The Hunter Killer skills are okay. You got fire support and suppression. Fire support's decent. Suppression is not terrible. I think it's +4, right? Or is it +4 or +5?
Yeah, it's +4
instead
on
of
these.
+5.
Which is also lame. And so you lose Afterburner, you lose targeting scope.
And you have worse skills.
Yeah.
And you have worse passives, and you have...
Yeah, it boosts 5 instead of 6. You have worse passives. Heat Sink instead of Auxiliary or Energizer is worse. You go from targeting scope to First of the Fight, which is worse. And you go from Afterburner to Suppression. That might actually be an improvement.
Yeah, that's basically the only improvement. And then the passive skills are garbage, like air control and elemental effect chance or something like that.
Yeah, it really annoys me that they did such a bad job with these on all the characters.
Yeah, they're weird.
And they did bad with those in Borderlands 2 as well.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's the kick in the nuts. Like, they knew from experience they were bad, and they did the same thing with them.
Yeah, I don't know why. It's a weird slayer of Terracoms, and they're all...
Yeah.
I think Claptraps is not too terrible, but you might get to that later.
Yeah. So next is the Chronicler of Elpis, the legendary from the Holodome. This is freeze chance plus 49% cryo damage plus 49%, which is a big deal. Shield capacity plus 14,895. Then we have 5 skills at +4 again, but these are all deep skills. So we have Rolling Thunder, which is really good. We have Escalation, which is really good.
Yeah, Escalation boost is huge.
We have Emergency Response, which is really good. You have Divert Power. All right, it's fine, just good, but it's good. You have Divert Power, which is probably worth throwing that 1 point in.
Mm-hmm. Same, you also have...
and then you have Hazmat, which is kind of... That's the bad part of when you get down to this tree, you get Hazmat instead of something cooler. Yeah, if they would have had this rapid reinforcement, it would have been so much better.
I'm pretty sure that breaks the comm if you have rapid reinforcement all there.
But this is a really good comm, and all of these comms for the most part were done really well.
Yeah, the Chronicler of Elpis comms are pretty good across the board. I think Athena's is kind of awkward, and other than that, the rest of them are amazing.
Yep.
Freeze chance, multiplicative cryo damage.
Yep.
Rolling Thunder is just a nice skill to have.
Yeah, and Rolling Thunder boosted is crazy.
Yeah, I'd even
if you're doing a wolf build.
Yeah, exactly. I'd even throw 1 point into Rolling Thunder, even if I'm not running a Rolling Thunder build, just because it's nice to have. Escalation is the big one, though. What do you get? Plus 50 Type B crit bonus? It's insane.
Well, it would be 9, so 45.
45. But it's a huge Type B crit bonus. And couple that with targeting scope, even though it's an unboosted targeting scope, it's a lot of
still work. Huge.
Yeah.
Especially, if you're doing like a cryo Snyder sniping build with this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a lot of damage.
Yeah.
And like I said, great emergency response is good. Yeah, it's just great overall. But very thematic. You kind of gotta find your way into it. Fatale would be really good with this.
Is that it doesn't boost Cold War. That's the one thing I would have expected from a Chronicler of Elpis. It would have boosted Cold War. But it doesn't boost Cold War, and the passive bonuses are better than Cold War would ever be. So, good on them for.
Has anybody tried a Fatale build with this?
With the Cold War?
Yeah, no, with the Chronicler comm.
I think that's one of the first ones that came out from the woodwork.
Of course, it's almost better with Absolute Zero with this.
Yeah, Escalation works really well with the Fatale, right?
Yeah,
because it has that crit.
70. It's basically a cryo bitch.
Yeah, exactly. It has that Type A crit, because the bitch is a Type A.
Yep.
So you combine that with Escalation, and it does a lot of work, for sure.
And then the multiplicative. Do you have any order for the purple ones, or you just want me to run through them all? Whatever the order they're in the backpack.
I'd talk about the blaster first, if anything.
Okay. Blaster it is. So this is our laser class mod. You have laser fire rate at 23%, laser weapon accuracy at 33%, think splitters. And then skills are laser focus, which makes a hell of a lot of sense. Welcome to the gun show, which I think is a nice addition to it.
And then Venom bolts.
So you want a blue one.
Yeah, you want a blue one. You want a blue high-tech blaster.
That laser focus +6 and welcome to the gun show +5.
Yeah, you don't want points of Venom Bolt. It's garbage. Even when boosted, it's garbage.
Yeah. But yeah, blue comm of this is, I mean, that's damn good for laser builds, obviously.
It's basically a glass cannon DPS build. You just all damage, no defensive skills. You get damage, damage, and more damage.
Yep.
Insane.
But like I said, welcome to the gun show at +5. 10 points in that's pretty damn good. So you're at just about 30% across the board.
It's just, it's a good con for glass cannon DPS. It does a lot of work. I don't think there's any bad stats on that other than Venom Bolts, but you can obviously opt out of the Venom Bolts option. Really good DPS comm. It's probably one of his higher DPS comms out of all of his options because of just how much gun damage you get from not only the passive bonus, the laser focus, and the gun show. Also, it makes the absolute. I think this is technically the best comm for for chucking with the laser discer as well.
Yep.
Because it gives you so much bonus flat mag.
And you get more magazine size from gun show. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Just a lot. It does a lot of work with lasers for sure. The only complaint is obviously no defenses at all.
Yeah.
You boost none of your defensive skills and. A lot of his Wilhelm skills only really get really good with defensive boosts, but it's still really good. It's just good comm overall.
So the next one, I have the howitzer here because
the howitzer is what I really want to talk to.
So explosive damage +49%. That's a big deal. Critical hit damage +43, which seems odd, but I think that actually works with him.
Yep.
Then you have fire support. First to the fight and targeting scope. So again, pure DPS.
Yep. You can go two options with this. You can either go a purple with so you can 1.1 to the first to fight instead of like power fist or something like that. Or you could just like get a blue and go siege howitzer and get all that targeting scope damage. I think you get 110% plus crit plus the crit you get from the howitzer itself.
Yep.
So that's what, like plus 150% crit. And then you have escalation on top of that.
159, yeah. So basically 160.
Yeah, even more. So you have like plus 160 crit, plus a 25 type B crit from escalation, plus.
Then flat gun damage for fire support.
Yeah, and also
which is going to help it. God, this almost seems like you could do something really cool with the Omni Cannon.
Yeah, that's why I use it. I use the Omni Cannon and this. It's fun on a button. It's just amazing.
Because first of the fight, it actually works pretty well. The Omni Cannon as well.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really strong comm. The obviously explosive damage, flat out multiplicative damage bonus works really well with your Torg weapons and what have you. Really really strong. It is another kind of glass cannon DPS gun, but it has a lot of really cool damage bonuses on it and a lot of good things going for it. And I advocate anything that boosts targeting scope because targeting scope is really insane when it's boosted. Yep.
All right, so now I'm just going to go down kind of in whatever backpack order because I got the two big ones out of the way. The equalizer. So this is fire rate and magazine size. 23% fire rate, 44 mag. Pretty good boost there.
A little redundant with Wilhelm's kit, just in general. But
it boosts suppression, and suppression boosted is pretty crazy.
Suppression's more fire rate, right?
Yeah, and it also boosts Rolling Thunder and Venom Bolt. So you want a blue one.
Yeah, that's what's weird about it. It's a super gun damagey comm, but it also has Rolling Thunder, which is weird. Like all of its bonuses are fire rate and mag size, right? Like all fire rate kind of DPS, gun DPS, and then it has Rolling Thunder. And you don't have an option to opt out of Rolling Thunder because the other option is Venom Bolts, and Venom Bolts is garbage. Yeah, it's weird.
But I mean, if you're doing like a wolf build, you're going to be able to kill things pretty quick with this, I'd imagine.
I think there's one better comm for Rolling Thunder specifically. I think it's like the fighter comm that also has Rolling Thunder, but it also has like cooldown rate or something like that, or duration or something like that. It works a little bit better, but it's kind of, as it is, it's kind of disjointed just because Venom Bolts kind of screws it over a little bit.
Yeah.
Like say if Venom Bolts was...
It's not very focused.
Yeah. If Venom Bolts was something like... If Venom Bolts was targeting scope, that would be fun. If Venom Bolts was it was like fire support or something like that, it'd be fun. But as it is right now, or if Venom Bolts was freaking emergency response, that's like all your fire rate goes to like 1 billion.
So as a leveling up comm, probably pretty good, not so much of an end game comm.
Yeah, there's
always something better.
To have a wolf build with suppression and rolling thunder, it does give your fire rate and does give wolf damage, but
yeah, and wolf
it's a little
rate.
unfocused.
Yeah. Projector, laser fire
projector.
rate. Yep, laser fire rate, slam damage, and then heat sink, emergency response, and divert power.
Yeah, this is a weird comm. I think I used it with my with the Spadroon, the Toby's Bright laser or something.
Yeah, that's the Spadroon. Toby's Bright Spadroon.
Yeah, this is like the one way Wilhelm can get to like really, really insane fire rates with the Spadroon.
Yeah,
it's like actually insane.
Which you'll definitely need overcharge for that.
Yeah, you need overcharge. You need the huge amount of emergency response. You get fire rate from the comm itself. It's one of the few comms that boost heat sinks. I don't think it's that focused of a comm in general, but it's really fun to play with. It's one of those holodome comms that one of the purple holodome comms. It's definitely not as good as like the projection comm or something that's way better, but
really
it's fun to use, especially with all that fire rate. Divert power is kind of awkward.
You know what? This actually, for like a lightsaber build, because you're gonna want to slam with a Spadroon. You go in there and slam, and you start hitting people with it. Mm-hmm. Which the slam damage is good. Then emergency response, if you're using that, your shields can be down quite a bit. And as well as divert power, that'll actually come in handy when you're up close and personal that often.
It's basically designed for the Spadroon. Just a lot of fire rate and a lot of... You can ramp that thing up to 11. It's an interesting comm, but
it's weird when it's just like really great on one niche gun.
Yeah, it's like it's really fun for the Spadroon, but everything else is kind of weird because it's all its DPS is fire rate and reload speed.
Yeah,
and then it also has 2 shield skills. It's weird. It's a weird comm, but it's fun.
What do we got next? The Scout or the Mech class mod. The team comm here. So shield recharge rate plus 49%. Shield recharge delay minus 33. That's fantastic in my opinion. For passives, skills, targeting scope, great. Energizer, pretty awesome. And rapid reinforcement. This is a really good class mod.
Yeah, it's a really good class mod. It doesn't boost your damage outside of targeting scope a little bit, but it's kind of like this is probably one of your better tank mods for the looks of it. It gives you reload speed and movement speed from the rapid reinforcement, so you kind of move around a lot,
which is great, and cooldown rate.
Yeah, boosted energizer is always great when you want to keep your wolf insane tough.
Yep.
And targeting scope is of course just a really good skill in general.
Yeah.
If I want it to be like kind of your support wolf saint guy, I might even avoid the targeting scope, even though it's that good to kind of maybe accentuate on kind of your support aspects. Obviously, targeting scope is really, really good. You don't really want to be missing points on that.
Yeah.
But you might want to get a blue comm, maybe, but I wouldn't recommend it. Obviously, the purple comm's really good, and your 4 points in targeting scope is much better than 2 extra points in rapid reinforcement and energize. It's just pretty solid comm. The stats are good. It's not really like the most amazing comm that you'd ever see, but it's a really solid comm for sure. Yeah, gives you good damage.
Definitely outclassed by the legendary, but it's still really good.
Yeah, for sure. A rapid reinforcement is always fun to play with when it's boosted.
Yeah,
you get to be super fast and super wolfy and supporty. It also gives you team shield or team
shield recharge rate and delay.
Oh, that's really good.
Yeah, that's very good. Yeah,
and couple that with energizer, which also heals your team's shields too.
Yeah, that's a great team comm. And you're not going to be hurt for wearing that because you are getting targeting scope.
Yeah,
and rapid reinforcements giving you reload speed and movement speed. So you're getting quite a bit out of it.
Skills.
Yeah, that's a really good team
really
comm.
Good stuff too. Yeah, for sure. I overlooked it. I probably should have included that in Top Gear. It's a really solid comm overall. It's just, it's fun to play with. I haven't I haven't really looked at it, but yeah, it's a really good comp.
Maybe one of these days we'll get 4 people together to do an all-team Com Holodome run or something.
Yeah, that may be fun.
I've done peak runs like that. Next, we have the Terminator. Shield capacity and magazine size.
Oh, I think I know this one.
And then first to fight, fortify, and oh boy, Cold War.
Yeah, so...
This is hot garbage.
Yeah, like the comm skills it boosts are weird. It gives you first to fight and Cold War, which are very situational to begin with. Cold War is... I hate Cold War. I think it's the worst ability ever. And the good skill is Fortify, which is awkward. It's not like the best skill in the world. It's health and damage. What was the passive on Terminator again? It's
shield capacity and magazine size.
Yeah, those are kind of like... They're really awkward. This comm's garbage.
Yep. Moving on. I don't think we can really
Wait. I think I can justify it in one way. I think TDR railguns do the most damage when they're boosted by the Terminator comm.
Could be.
That's it. That's all I remember. Because they have really high, when they're glitched, they have really high magazine size.
Yeah.
So when you throw them, the plus 43 magazine size or whatever.
Plus 49. So it is a big magazine size buff.
But that's the only positive I can give to it. Cold War's garbage. First to fight is situational at best, and
does first to fight apply on Chucks?
I think it's gun damage. I wouldn't think so.
Yeah, it's gun damage. Probably not. Yeah, I can't find a good. Yeah, so it's good for chucking one gun type.
Yeah, what TDR railguns do more damage with the Terminator
TDR
than would with the high tech blaster. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. The Golem, max health and health regen per second. I never really love health regen per second on these comms because it's never enough.
It's a really low number, right?
Yeah, it's a 414 per second.
Yeah,
and because it's not percentage, if you health stack, it just gets worse.
Yeah.
I really wish they were just percents and not those flat numbers. Gearbox, if you're listening, Borderlands 3, make those percentages.
So it gives you flat health regen and shield capacity, I think?
No, max health.
Max health.
And the max health on these comms is also dumb because it's outside the health formula, so you can't multiply that with your health skills.
And it boosts man and machine, so that kind of shoots it in the butt a little bit.
Yeah, man in the machine, emergency response, and heat sink. So this is meant to be like a tanking comm, and I think it kind of fails.
Yeah, if the max health they gave was inside the formula, and
that'd be different. And if
different, man and machine would work a little bit better, and then heat sinks is kind of weird and situational. It's only really good when you're canceling Wolfenstein.
Yep.
But it's weird. I don't like it. It's not good. And emergency response is kind of not really good on a tank comm because you ideally don't want it's DPS, but it's like DPS when your shield breaks. It's nice to have, but it's not really doesn't really fit on a comm like this.
Yeah.
The focus is supposed to be tanking. Maybe I don't even know how to fix this. Maybe divert power. Maybe energize would probably fix this a little bit better. But then even with heat sinks, I don't know. This comm's going nowhere fast.
I know how to fix it. The next comm, Obliterator. Also max health. God, why can't these be within the formula? Like, they treat it like amp damage. And then melee damage.
Of course.
It boosts Meteor Slam, Man in the Machine, and Fortify. Ouch.
I really wish we had a blue one just to see how far Meteor with the Obliterator. These are bad skills generally. Fortify is okay.
But if that's your best skill, like that... If that's your best skill on
not good. It's your best skill.
Yeah.
It's not good when it's your best skill. And Meteor Slam, I really want to see how far Meteor Slam goes with all those boosts. It's probably not good enough to make a build, but it's...
Is that the +5 skill? Yeah, that's the +5 skill, so I will do it here.
It'd be fun to see, but I don't think it's good at all.
And it doesn't even seem that much bigger than just that 5.
Yeah,
it should be huge at this. Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, it's a garbage comm because Meteor Slam isn't worth boosting. Mana Machine is It's not really that great, and I don't think it gives you anything useful either in passive stats.
No.
It gives you melee damage and like something
Yeah, the
else.
melee damage seems weird there too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a weird.
But
comp.
yeah, I've been on my melee stop giving like these weird melee boosts to non-melee characters thing rant enough times.
Yep.
The Scorcher class mod. So incendiary damage, which is dumb because that's only dots, not fire damage.
Oh, is it not burning damage? Isn't incendiary?
Oh no, incendiary damage. Wait, yeah, burning would be just dots. So maybe this is all fire.
It should be just fire, straight up fire.
Okay, that is good. So laser focus.
Not bad, not great.
Fire support and suppression.
Yeah, it's not that bad of a DPS comp.
No.
It gives you gun damage in forms of both the laser focus and the fire support. It gives you straight out incendiary damage, which is
Good.
just a multiplicative damage boost. And it also gives you the suppression, which is fire rate.
Yep.
Unfortunately, not too many lasers need that fire rate. Like beams don't really need it.
No.
Splitters do, but blasters could use it too. Like if you want to run like a Malawan incendiary blaster build, this could be a decent enough
What
comp
about
for it.
Tannis's Light of Enlightenment?
It doesn't really get much from the fire rate.
Yeah, or the meg size.
Or the
But it doesn't
max.
quite have Spadru meg size, but it's still pretty big, I think.
Yeah. It's fun. It's fun. It's a fun laser. It's a fun comm. I think it's a pretty decent comm.
Yeah,
It is incendiary damage, not burning damage. So
which is good.
So it's a multiplicative damage boost. I don't think it's that high though. It's like 20 something, or is it 49?
We're 32, which is good. 32
Yeah,
is solid.
It's solid. It's not like howitzer levels at 49, but it's still pretty good.
Yeah.
And it boosts good skills, and it's pretty solid all around. He has a lot of pretty good glass cannon DPS comms
Just-
for sure.
The other laser comm is probably better for lasers.
Yeah, probably because it gives you flat out laser damage as opposed. It could be. I haven't tried it head to head.
Yeah,
but
this
it
might
probably
compete
is.
with it.
It might
I mean,
compete just because.
Well, the fact that, multiplicative is big, and a lot of fire rate.
So like, I'd want to try like a
TD. I wonder if like a
splitter or something.
Yeah, it could be really good with that.
Like it could compete with the high tech blaster on like Pandora, cluster Pandora and stuff like that. Like where there's a lot of flesh enemies. Yeah, it'd be interesting to try out for sure. Just from looking at it though, it's actually a pretty decent comp. Decent skills, decent stats.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just, does it outdo other ones?
I haven't really put it through the ringer to see if it does.
Next we have the loaded Mauler, or the Mauler.
Is this the shotgun one?
Yes. So shotgun weapon accuracy, which is a big deal for shotguns, because as Chuck says, accuracy equals DPS with shotguns. Mm-hmm. So that is big. Shotgun gun damage at 43%. The accuracy is 45 if I didn't say that. So very good boost there. Skill-wise, rapid reinforcement, reload speed. Shotguns love reload speed. Movement speed helps you close the gap. Cooldown rate. Auxiliary tank, so more cooldown rate. And emergency response, reload fire rate. It kind of makes sense. I mean, again, shotguns love reload speed, so you're boosting 2 reload speeds. You're boosting 2 cooldown, which doesn't have anything to do with shotguns, but that's really good for cooldown.
If auxiliary tanks was something like targeting scope or like afterburner or something like that, it would be like insane probably for shotguns. Like a lot of Jacob's shotguns, like instant reloading and shit like that.
Yeah.
But if auxiliary tanks is something like targeting scope, this combo would actually be like amazing for shotguns.
Yeah.
Or like even gun show or something
Still
like that.
pretty solid though.
It's pretty solid as it is, but it's just
like for the flare.
Damage.
With all this reload
damage,
speed.
reload speed, and
you're gonna
damage, reload speed, and fire rate. The fire rate doesn't really go for Jacob's guns, but yeah, accuracy, damage, and reload speed is a lot of work.
Yeah, because you can get. Let's see, I got 50% reload speed from emergency response at 9 out of 5, and at 9 out of 5 in rapid reinforcement, another 72. So I mean that's a big deal with shotguns.
Yeah, for sure.
Especially Jacob's shotguns.
Mm-hmm.
Jacobs doesn't care about the fire rate, but I don't know. I kind of like that.
It's a
gun
pretty
damage,
good
accuracy. Yeah, I mean it hits a lot of things shotguns wants. Fire rate for all non-Jacobs, reload for all of them, and accuracy for all of them.
Yeah, it's a pretty good shotgun comm. It could be better with auxiliary tanks into something else, like gun show or targeting scope or.
But the fact that you have 2 cooldown skills too, like Wolf and Saint, are going to be able to be up all the time.
I mean, with laser scope, with laser focus, they're kind of already up for like an entire mobbing map for the most part.
Yeah.
And as I said, rapid reinforcement is always fun with boosts.
Yeah. Yeah, especially with shotguns. Again, you want to close that gap. So I don't know. I think that's interesting.
It's very interesting. It's I think it has the potential to be a really good comm. It is a really good comm as it is. It just has the potential to be like an amazing comm. If you say auxiliary tanks to something like gun show or targeting scope.
Yeah, just a little more damage or something.
Or even like just fire support with just flat more gun damage.
Yeah. Last one we have, oddly enough, is your cooldown comm, the fighter. Cooldown rate 43%. And this doesn't boost the cooldown skills, which actually might be for the better. Afterburner, Venom Bolts, and Rolling Thunder. So a blue one, with
Rolling Thunder.
Both Afterburner and Rolling Thunder and cooldown. That's pretty solid.
This is your kind of quintessential pet comm. It's probably the Chronicler of Elpis is probably your better comm to boost Rolling Thunder with. But if you can get 11 out of 5 Rolling Thunder with Afterburner and stuff like that, I guess your Wolf flies super duper fast.
Yeah,
that's something cool. Obviously, you get like reload speed and other stuff that's fun with the Afterburner as well. But the Rolling Thunder boost to 11 is what is that? Like a super high amount of.
Yeah, I don't have a blue one to actually have that, but
yeah, it just has it gives you like assuming this gives you 10 at 5 out of 5, so 22% wolf damage per stack roughly.
Yeah,
and
that's a lot.
Like
of
30,
per
you
stack.
get like 30 to 40 stacks. Like
it's a ton of damage.
Like,
Wolf will be destroying shit pretty well.
Yeah, exactly. Just a lot of damage from Wolf. Cooldown rate will keep it up once it goes down, and laser focus obviously can keep that up for a very long time. It's probably a fun one to try out for a pet build. Probably the Chronicler would be more successful overall because it's also like a pretty good overall comm in general. Mm-hmm. But it's definitely a fun one to go 11 out of 5 with Rolling Thunder. Just have fun with it.
Yeah, because that's a big ass number, and he's gonna kill fast.
Either this or the suppression, the one with suppression and Rolling Thunder. Those are just going to be fun to play with Wolf and Saint. Having Wolf get all that Rolling Thunder boost.
Just go crazy. So that's all the class mods. We've done it all.
A lot of good ones, a lot of mediocre ones. Just kind of average ones too.
I mean, he's got a few themed ones, like he's got a laser one, the explosive one, but it seems past that end game, you're almost always better off with the legendary.
Yeah, the fire one. I think the Master Blaster or the High Tech Blaster, that's for straight up DPS. But overall, the Celestial Enforcer is more or less your best comm.
Yeah.
His dedicated tank comms are really bad, and a lot of his fun comms are kind of not that great in general. You got your Chronicler and your Celestial, which are probably your best 2 comms, and then you have a bunch of other comms that are pretty good for glass cannon DPS. Like the shotgun one was pretty good for glass cannon DPS. The high-tech blaster, of course, really good for just laser DPS, and then you have that incinerator, which is pretty good for DPS as well. You also have that support one, which seems to be like good in concept. I don't know how well it plays out in practice, but
yeah, that one seems to be all right. His tanking, I mean, I think it's better than Sal's, but it seems to almost suffer a bit of the Sal. After doing the Sal one with Chuck, it seems like a lot of the same issues, where it's like his tanking stuff is really close, but just not fully realized.
Not quite there.
Yeah. Especially when Jack has this like crazy tanking that's like almost an accident.
Yeah, like Jack, like, whoops, I'm also like the best
invincible. He is. You can just, I mean, have you seen my Darth Timothy stuff with him? Like,
oh yeah, I'm not an antagonist.
Yeah. I mean, you do a ton of Timothy stuff. Yeah, I mean, I just run around my Spadroon build and just nothing can kill me. I just run around hitting stuff in the face with a lightsaber and I'm invincible.
Yeah, you can just do whatever the hell you
Because
want.
that one boosts teamwork. That's the comm I use with that one to 10. And teamwork at 10 means you can't die. You're getting 50-second or up to 50% health per second.
Yeah.
It's
I think I run the antagonist, which is winning and delegation, that one damage redirection skill that nobody takes.
Oh, yeah.
When that's boosted, you're like, oh, I just don't take damage at all. Okay.
Yeah, I just give it all to my jacks, and they blow up, and that makes me stronger. Goodbye.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So, anyways, with some of the accidental tanking in this game, his tanking just isn't what it should be. Like, he is durable, and like we said before, he's really well balanced for this game. It's just he's well balanced in a game full of overpowered characters.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And that's kind of the crux of it. I don't know if all the characters should be brought down to his level, because I like the other characters. I'd kind of like him to make just kind of... It would have been fun if he was kind of up at their kind of craziness levels. But he's still a really good character. He's still totally viable, and the people that love him love him. If you like the soldier class, I think his action skill is a ton of fun.
He's super faithful to like the true Axton experience, kind of.
And the soldier experience is the most popular experience in the Borderlands franchise. Like, Axton was the most played character in Borderlands 2. I'm pretty sure Roland was the most played character in Borderlands 1.
Yep.
So people love this setup, and I think they made huge advancements in the turret by bringing them to surveyors, and have them be able to move with you. The bonuses on death, like the explosion and the health, and the fact that one does damage and one heals you, you kind of get that extra teamwork. Yeah, I think it's some really great design. I mean, his wolf tree is really solid. His saint tree is lackluster with a great capstone, and then his
middle tree is kind of somewhere stuck in between.
It's kind of hit and miss.
Side.
Yeah. So, anything else you have to add to it?
I think I'm good. I think we've wasted enough of these people's time.
Yes. So everyone, once again, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it if you stuck through all this. I'm going to have the timestamps up for you like I did the last video. I still have to go through and do that for all the old ones, but that's going to take a while. You guys can also find me on Twitter, which is linked below. You can find me in my new Facebook page. You can join up to my Patreon if you are so willing. You can join the Discord. I'm not in there a lot, but if you PM me on it, I see the messages and it lights up on my phone, and I do respond. Try to make myself available to you guys. I think my Steam group's kind of dead. I don't check that too often anywhere. So anyways, if you guys have not yet subscribed, please do that. And let us know in the comments what you think. We're right and wrong. I'm sure you're going to do that anyways. You don't need me to tell you. So once again, thanks everyone, and I will see you later.
Yep, see ya.